love must end. I lost my world, I lose again. You're gone forever, I lose again.
The Bald-Headed Bistro has a brand new menu offering more value for your dollar. The Bald-Headed Bistro, Western fine dining in the heart of the South. The best bar and happy hour in town. The Bald-Headed Bistro in the Village Green, Cleveland.
You are listening to WOOP-LP, Cleveland, Tennessee. WOOP FM is a broadcasting service of the Traditional Music Resource Center, and we play America's original music.
Before me.
Good morning. Oh, this is going to be a day. You're live, or I'm live on Old Town Cleveland here on WOOP FM 99.9. You can go to the internet at www.woopfm.com. And we got some guests here today. Oh, my goodness. And if I would recommend that you get your boots on early today. It may get thick. Deb, good morning, my co-host, Debbie Moore. Tell us about this show.
It's March the 8th this morning, and we have Chip Bryant and John Cook in here with us, and we're going to be talking about the adventures of the early sheriff's department when these guys worked there. Not that it's been so long ago, but it's been a day or two since you guys worked there.
These guys worked there when it wasn't fancy.
That
modern.
Is so true. That is
wasn't
so true.
fancy, wasn't modern, and,
yes.
and I know Chip and John and I will be able to tell you about cars that almost worked, radios that almost work, and all that. So Chip Bryant and
good morning.
John Cook is here.
Good morning.
Both former members of the Bradley County Sheriff's Office for both of them were over 20 years, right?
Oh yes.
Are we going to use words like back in the day?
Back in the day. Pure near too.
That's
I spent
depressing.
29 years. I don't know.
You served 29 years at the jail.
Well, I was there. I don't know. I was up every year for the part-time Employee of the Year award.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Well, that's good. Hopefully we'll get some of these former guys that worked with you and that you arrested. We'll call in today. And,
those who aren't in jail.
They've got phone services over at the jail.
Yeah, don't they? That's true. Yeah.
That's something John installed at the jail was the phone service.
Yeah, Evercom. Yeah. don't be accepting any charges from Evercom.
We'd have to accept the charges. That's true and everything. So, John, good to see you here as usual.
Oh, yeah.
John, it's been a few days since you've been at a WOOP studio. You used to have your own show here, and we do miss you.
We were syndicated.
That's not the word I was.
Syndicated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were syndicated. I'm actually on about 67 computers now, somewhere.
Somewhere.
And
Scandinavia.
I wanted to tell everybody that last week's show has now been posted to YouTube, and it would be found where, Ron?
Just go to the WOOP FM website, woopfm.com, and you can go through the archives and click on it and wait and click on it and wait and click on it and wait, and then it will come up, and it'll come up to a YouTube page, and just look for last Saturday's date, and you'll hear David Carroll's show. And then if you want to hear shows back, we go all the way back to March now. So this show is being recorded live and will be on YouTube next week. So
March of last year.
Yeah.
No, March of this year. No, last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Because this is now April.
Yeah, we've got two shows on there. We got two shows.
But last week we had a great time. We had David Carroll on, and
good friend of mine. Yes,
he played great clips from the early days of
the
WFLI.
Jet Fly Spectacular ads and things.
Did
of
you
that
ever
nature.
go to those Fly Spectaculars?
Oh yes,
Many of them.
I was there. Saw
Yep.
Dave Clark 5 and all those groups that came. I think they had 3 of them or 2.
Something.
Oh, on
2
the-
or 3.
Three, I believe.
Oh no, they had bunches.
Oh,
But,
did they?
Yeah,
Oh yeah, back in the day, you go to those things and there'd be 20 artists
That's
playing
true.
in one
Well,
show.
yeah.
They talked
And
about how
he
amazing it was to
explained
get
how they
there.
did that is that the radio stations were so close together and they sponsored it and they made sure the people got moved and stuff so you could do it much cheaper and that's why we could get in for $3.25.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. And I know David Carroll posted on his website the ad for Spectacular had the cow cells, the box tops, and Tommy James and the Shondells,
Yeah.
and I was sitting there going, I was at that one.
Yes,
I was
yeah.
really at that one. You know,
But I was also at a concert at Cleveland High School where Ron Moore and John Cook played on the gymnasium floor.
Wow.
About 1972, am I correct?
Well,
They had us both there.
I think you were both there.
Wow.
Legends.
What would the name of your group been back then?
Well, I would have played with Chain back then. I think
Yes.
it would have been one of the bands I played with, and
Yeah.
John played with Nexus.
Yes.
yeah,
So.
yeah.
John
We
and
had
I-
a whole Thanksgiving entertainment was John and his Nexus album.
Oh yeah.
Well, I want to, before we go on to the topic here, I want to say, John, here, our theme song, Old Town Cleveland, written by John Cook, and we appreciate him letting us use that song for the last 5 years, and the royalty check was almost coming.
I still been looking for them.
Yeah, and then today about 10:30, we're going to do another premiere of another song from our documentary is coming out on April 17th called "It's a Dirt Track Life." John wrote the title song for that too, and he's got another song that we use at the finish. It's called "The Finish Line."
Okay, I
Oh,
like
it's
that idea.
So it's a little different, and we're going to play it about there. It's the first time it'll be played on there. And John has a new CD out called "No Preservatives Added," and you can get it at johncookmusic.net.
Yeah, johncookmusic.net or on Amazon.
So
That is so neat.
big time, and folks, it's pretty good stuff there. You know, I've heard a lot of it, and it has the Dirt Track Life on there and the Finish Line, the song from
It's
Caney
got
Creek.
Coming Home from the Caney Creek documentary.
So John's written songs for.
I've become
both
well
our-
known in the documentary circles, which is about right for somebody about to turn 60.
Well,
Going
now,
for a little circle.
today we're going to talk about the old days of the sheriff's department and police department, and back when, and we'll probably talk since whoever didn't show up today,
Yes,
any
right.
deputy or police officer is not in this room today, we can talk about.
That's why I came, because there's
Yeah.
probably more on me than anybody. So I'm here to protect my image.
And you have to remember, now there's some stories that I will not be able to tell because I was there too.
right? Yes, yeah,
so
right,
those
yeah.
stories we'll lead
Right.
off, and we won't tell all the stories about John and all the other things. But a little later on, we are going to tell about the fishing lure story, though.
That's the best story. There's so many good stories revolving that gentleman.
Now,
that
now, folks, your children, it's not dirty, but there's a few little curse words that have to go with it.
A few little, half the story's going to have to go.
But and
The story ends up being there was a fishing lure.
I mean, am I actually going to have to edit the story, or one of you guys have a beep button?
yeah, we may have to. We need a horn.
There's no.
And we're living in a lot of dust here today. They're remodeling the studios down here, and it's going to be really nice. They're putting in new lights so we can be seen, and they got the cameras working better, and so hopefully things will be great. And so if you hear John and Chip and I, and Chip looked at me and said, "Chip," yeah, I'd get it.
I understand. I'm just trying to help you. Almost 60-year-old Ron Moore.
All right, now I want you guys to start thinking about
About a week,
almost.
actually.
I know.
Actually,
Don't just go on. That's stuff we don't need to talk about. Start thinking about some of the wild, crazy things that happened to your stories, and I'm gonna tell one on John right off the bat. How's
Okay,
that?
I want to hear it.
John had went to work over at the sheriff's department, and then as a correctional officer. Well, basically, he was a jailer back then. Him and
Yes.
one other guy was the jailers at the old jail.
Yes,
That was
was
it.
it.
I remember that.
And you had to know
Once
where-
There
The
was
old
just-
jail before the Justice
Yeah.
Center jail on
Right,
Second
yeah,
Street.
We're
Not
talking on
saying-
2nd Street. Once it was just myself and the dispatcher.
That's
Dispatcher was always considered a jailer.
And the hard thing to happen at the old jail there on 2nd Street is you had to remember where you put the keys.
true. Absolutely. Very
I mean,
important.
you're supposed to go back, hang them back at that same
Yeah.
place, and literally had the old-fashioned metal keys.
Yes.
And if somebody didn't put them back, you couldn't get a prisoner in or out. So, but John one night went out on patrol though. Was patrolling, and he started to chase someone. Now, well, that's funny enough right there now. But John jumped out of his car and ran over there and told the guy to halt, and the guy did. And John reached down to grab his gun. Well, his gun had got caught between the seats and the armrest, so the gun wasn't in his holster.
Yeah.
And John says, "Don't you move!" And John ran back to the car and got his gun and ran back. And the guy's still standing there with his hands up.
The guy could have rabbited real easy right then. Couldn't he?
Idiot should have went to jail.
Yeah.
If he had just kept on running.
For sure. Yeah.
And then, you remember Jerry Hacker?
I remember he had an eyesight problem.
Yeah,
Maybe.
real bad.
He and I caught some criminals up in North Bradley County off the interstate one morning. Yeah, I remember Jerry.
Well, he
Good
had
guy.
thick glasses, and
He did.
one day John and him were riding together, and they were needing to catch someone.
Mm-hmm.
So Hacker could run, and John couldn't.
Right, yeah.
So
But
John's-
John could see and Jerry could.
Yeah, so
Right.
John
It
had
worked out.
John got the loudspeaker on the car going, "Jerry, turn right. Watch out for the fence, Jerry." I don't know if they called the but you're
That's
saying,
good.
and of course, they're calling in. He says, "I've got Hacker out chasing somebody," and we're all got this picture of going, "Yeah, we can see that."
John and I one afternoon, we had one late night. We had to go make an arrest. We get there, and I'm not going to use the guy's name because he's living in Cleveland now. And the parents told us that the defendant who we're trying to arrest is in the house. You can come in and talk to him. This guy would fight. We knew he'd fight. So we go in and we talk the guy outside under the promise that he's not going to be arrested. We just want to talk to him. So we conned him, get outside. Then John bear hugs him, and he fights, and we finally get him hooked up to the jail. Now, every time I see that guy in town, Chip Brunt and John Cook, you guys lied to me that night. He hasn't remembered that. Of all the times he's been arrested, do you know who I'm talking about, John?
Yeah, the only thing he remembers is you lied to me.
That's it. Yeah, he's the guy who escaped out of the old jail, going up the grease flue in the kitchen. I mean, we had been there 15 years and didn't know you could crawl out the flue, the exhaust pipe, over the kitchen equipment.
Well, until
And
somebody does it.
Until somebody does it. So he crawls out. Of course, we arrest him in 2 days.
It was amazing how people out of that old jail could cut
I didn't
through
know
a bar,
you could cut. Yeah.
and then a space that not even the size
know.
of my head they could go through, and
can.
they really wanted to get out of jail.
Well, actually, they
we
come
didn't know
through
you could cut through a bar with a shoestring and Vaseline
I-
until they did
yeah.
it.
They came through the masonry wall in Andy Lockhart's office. They busted through it big enough to drive a tank through
There was
it.
no rebar in the wall or nothing.
There-
You just-
no.
Have you ever seen the picture? Somebody took a picture. I think it was somebody from the band or the day after that escape, and they had busted through the block wall from maximum security.
Yeah.
Now get
Yeah,
this.
that's it.
This
That's
is
it.
this
That's
is
the
at the
truth.
Justice Center on Johnson Boulevard, and it's maximum security. This is where you put the bad people. Why maximum? Because you can't get out of maximum security.
Right. Yeah.
And somebody just didn't think, well, we'd put an office right on the other side of this block masonry wall.
Yeah. There was no
And,
concrete poured in the wall.
Yeah, and the next morning after the escape, there's this beautiful picture somewhere in the Banner's archives of Andy in his office standing there looking down through that hole with this look on his face like,
and they just walked out the front door of the jail.
yeah,
That's true.
Well,
They
his
did.
office is right up front.
Yeah, that's when the front door was left unlocked, so bondsmen and people could get in there at night. Oftentimes, maybe a victim fleeing her assailant, if it's domestic violence, they could come there and kind of escape into the lobby, and you couldn't go past the lobby. So they were able to come through Andy's office, walk out his door, walk out the front door, and head up Johnson Boulevard. I think Richard Taylor was significant in catching them back
Yeah.
2 or 3 days. He got on their trail and did a good job for us. So they got put back in jail.
Richard Roberts, we know him as Richard Melvin, at the Banner,
Yes, yeah.
worked at the
He
Justice
did.
Center.
Yeah, I recall that.
Yeah,
Sports
he,
writer. Yes.
He was out in the parking lot, and a trustee decided to escape one day with his friend and jumped in the car and started. And Richard literally jumped on the hood of the car like they do in the movies and was holding on to the windshield wipers. And he says, "Well, this is a really bad idea." And it's driving on down the road.
Oh,
Richard's
my,
going,
yeah. That's
So,
a bad idea. I rode in one Sunday morning. I was on patrol. This had been prior to 1985. And I saw a bunch of state and federal police cars there. we had a part-time dispatcher that went over 3 or 4 states and did an armed robbery. Do you remember that, John? He does it. He does. Yeah. He gets a day off. He drives.
Well, I mean, on you
Gets
know,
a day off and he
he
drives
goes
over
and does an
in
armed
his
robbery.
defense,
Yeah.
it didn't pay very much.
Well, that's true. Yeah, dispatching didn't pay a whole lot, but they traced him back to Bradley County and put him in jail. I don't know whatever happened to him.
Plus, I don't think that you know, for dispatchers back in the day, we didn't really have a process of.
Thank you. I dispatched a little bit, John. Thank you. Who was it shot
Some good ones slipped through the cracks.
Who was it shot their gun in the dispatch office through some time cards?
Which time?
Well, see,
Yeah, I
now
know,
I'm
but-
trying to avoid
JJ.
names here.
Yeah,
but,
I'm avoiding names. Now, the old,
No,
old
I'm gonna
jail.
I'm gonna call out JJ.
JJ? Was
JJ?
it JJ?
I think
Now,
JJ
you know,
shot his.
JJ's alive and well. He may be down here if you get.
Well,
yeah.
I think he shot himself in the foot.
Oh, did he really?
Yes.
Like for sure?
And the old jail,
Like
and then
Barney style?
Then somebody shot a hole in the roof right into Lamar Lawson's office one
Yeah,
day.
that's Second Street Jail.
Yeah, the old Second Street jail. Yeah.
I understand. Back then, we didn't have a policy. You could somebody say, "Hey, what kind of gun do you carry?" You know, you just bought your own gun,
Mm-hmm.
and you had Grandpa's gun and Daddy's gun when you bought the pawn shop, and you'd show your gun around. When we moved to Johnson Boulevard, we tightened up on that policy. So there was only one shot, I think, at Johnson Boulevard, and we were going through. We used to handwrite the call cards, and they looked like a time card.
Mm-hmm.
And the dispatcher would write down the time in, time out, and what happened.
Oh, yeah.
And what was going on. Then they were filed. Allegedly, they were filed. I don't know where they're at now. And someone reaches in to get some more, and they realize there's been a gunshot gone all the way through this case of time cards that had not been reported. So, of course, why the person didn't remove the time cards and hide the evidence, they didn't. Anyway, it took 3 or 4 days. We found out it was, and of course, the fellow got fired for playing with his gun while on duty, right?
Now, the deal at the old jail on 2nd Street was there was a shotgun we kept propped up in the dispatch office just in case the dispatcher had to kill somebody.
Yeah.
And right outside the dispatch window, there's a couch that sets up against the wall. It's no more than maybe 7 or 8 feet from the dispatch window, and that's where the bondsmen and derelicts and other such people would
Bondsman and
congregate,
Derricks.
you know, especially
That was
late at night.
redundant. wasn't
Yeah,
it?
it was, yes.
Well, this one particular night, there was myself and another person sitting on the couch. I just got off shift and was, you know, winding down, get ready to go home. Actually, I was waiting on one of the trustees to bring me a cheeseburger from the Teddy Bear. And then I was going to head home. And got up to go get a drink. And all of a sudden, there's this boom. And I'm not going to name the officer's name, but he was a reserve officer, a field deputy, we called
It
him.
wasn't me.
And he was standing in the dispatch office and smoke all at the dispatch office. He had picked up that shotgun and accidentally blowed the dispatch window out. And there's a big hole right there in the wall at the couch, pretty close to where I would have been sitting.
We are
Anyway,
not making the citizens feel safe.
No, probably not.
well, this is back in the old. This
You
is
shouldn't
back
have
in the,
felt
back in
safe.
the day. Well, he was severely reprimanded by the sheriff, and it became a big thing. And it wasn't like a couple of days later. It's on a Monday or Tuesday morning. We're getting inmates ready for court, and back at that time, we would leg iron them together.
That's right.
And we'd have a procession going up 2nd Street with a deputy in the front and one in back with a shotgun. I mean, it was old timers would line up because it was
it's a
it was a good
spectacle.
looking. It was it was a spectacle. Well, there was another officer standing in the hall, and he got the shotgun from the dispatch, and they were all talking about, you know, the officer said it just went off. It just went off. He's standing there and he's got his hand on it, and he says, you know what? He says, that's crazy. He said, these damn things just don't go off by themselves. He said, you got to have your finger on the trigger, and you got to jack it. About the time he did this and shot the floor and just blew the tiles up with all these inmates standing there shackled together, dust going everywhere. I'm coming out the back going, damn, they're shooting in here again. You know,
Was the gun
twice in 3 days.
malfunctioning, or did he just not know how to
No, I think
demonstrate
it's
his
just
story?
2 people that shouldn't have been dealing with a shotgun.
Probably
Well,
so.
if you put
yeah.
your finger in the thing and jack it, you're going to pull
Yeah,
it.
he was
Yeah.
just trying to tell the story. He just couldn't stop
Right,
his
yeah.
body
All
from.
right. John, they used to at the old jail. They got contraband in over at the old jail.
Oh, all
a lot.
the time, yeah.
Even in the new jails, the old new jail and the new jail, I call them now.
Yeah.
Well, there's been
always be
3 jails.
contraband.
The old, the old.
yeah.
Yeah.
But tell them one of the favorite ways for them to get whiskey in the old jail.
There was there was this one particular night. When I first started, I was working on I can't say 3rd shift because it actually covered most of 2nd shift, 3rd shift, and you just leave when everything's cooled down. On the weekends, that was later. But I was sitting out there around 2 o'clock in the morning. It was a quiet night. I was sitting down on the back steps of the jail where the gas pump used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it was quiet, and I was relaxing. I heard this sound, this clink, clink, clink. I kind of looked around and thought, what the heck? And it went away, and I sat there for a minute, and here it was again, clink, clink, clink. So I get up and I walk around to the back. You know, we used to have a little area in the back that's a little grass place where the inmates, if the state inspector came down, would say, that's where that's where we take them out.
Yeah.
I heard the noise again, looked up, and there's this bottle, half pint, that's going up the side of the jail attached to a little fishing line, and it's clinking off clinking off the bricks, and then it disappears through the bars. And I thought, well, that's not right.
Don't see that every day.
So I go upstairs, and there's about 5 bottles empties lined up outside the cell upstairs. We had the small cell block and the big cell block. That's what we named them, because one's smaller than the other.
We had to have a committee to come up with that.
And the small cell block, there was about 18 people, and they were looped. But
they weren't causing any problems, were
No,
they?
they weren't causing any problems. They were just happy. And the guy's girlfriend on Sunday, visitation always on Sunday, and she had smuggled him in a pocket fisherman. And you've got
that is so neat.
You know, you got the catwalk.
Yeah,
it's this little space between the bars and the wall where we go down and dispense medication, which is a whole other story in itself. But they were just whizzing this little pocket fisherman between the bars and out the window. And this girl out in the parking lot there by the Baptist
That's
church.
on the First Baptist side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had to get a good cast. I mean,
Well, he was probably the best fisherman. Yeah.
And she was tying those half pints on. And he was reeling them up. And
you know, John, back.
You know, I just picked the balls up. I said, "Boys,
yeah,
I ain't saying nothing about this if you don't.
yeah.
If you guys would just be quiet, nobody dies.
Well, they can't give it back at that time.
Well, no, it'd be kind of hard to do.
That was a culture shock for me when I first started there. I'd never been around a jail, certainly not the inmate population. When you went upstairs, it was like a third world refugee camp.
It was.
There was
pretty
blankets
bad.
hanging everywhere. It stunk to high heaven, and
You
never
could
went up there.
smell it when you
Yes.
parked outside.
You
I mean,
could.
across the street,
Right.
and you stepped out of your car.
I mean,
It was a place you
not
didn't wanna go.
clean. And you'd go. You never went up there unless you took your shotgun. That's how I was trained. Come here, Bryant. Let's show you how to do this. And there was a big bar that you pulled down that opened up the doors, kind of like you'd see on TV. And
when it didn't stick.
you had the shotgun in your hand, and you'd wake up the trustees to come down and help get breakfast started with Miss Murray, if you remember those days. One night, Andy Shelfer, a good friend of mine, a lot of folks know Andy. I guess he was a captain back then or lieutenant. He says,
Captain Shelfer.
yeah, come here, Chip, help me a minute. And he gets in the cabinet. Now, this is a true story. Statute of limitations over. We had a poor, pitiful alcoholic that was in DTs. Just really having a bad time. He probably should have gone to the hospital in retrospect. And he pours about 4 ounces of Jack Daniel, and we get that inmate out, and we let him sit there and drink that 3 or 4 ounces. You couldn't do that now for nothing.
They used
Lord,
to do
we'd
it
be
all
in
the
the federal
time.
penitentiary. But, that was the culture of the day. This is early 1980.
I think
It was
the
best
big
remedy
room,
for it.
Yeah, it was probably.
under today's standard, the big room would hold like 6 or 7 prisoners, and you probably had 40 or 50 in there all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, we
Yes,
had them
yeah.
crammed in pretty good.
Yeah.
And they slept on the floors. And
Hey, Ron, I had a warrant to arrest a guy in Prospect one morning prior to 1985 when I was on the road. And the guy come to the door, and I recognized him as one of our old alcoholics. Now, I'm saying that sympathetically. I really am. He said, Bryant, his eyes got big. Am I going to jail? I said, yes, I got a warrant for you. He said, please let me have a drink before I go. And I just said, well, yeah, let's go. I'll go with you. So I followed him back into his bedroom, and he reaches down under some blankets and pillows and pulls out a half pint, takes the lid off, and kind of cleans the threads off, and ceremoniously drunk 2 or 3 ounces of that alcohol. He said, okay, I'm ready to go now. It didn't cause me any trouble. I mean, these people, it's really pitiful.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is.
I thought when you told Shelfer they poured 4 ounces and he drank 2 and handed the other 2 to the prisoner. There are just all kind of stories that just go on and on and on. And
Somebody wants to know about Shepard escaping from the jail and who that is.
Well, that's I'll let John speak. That happened before my time. I don't know if you
Joe
were there.
Shepard.
Were you there, John, when any of that happened?
Yeah.
You were around, I guess.
I was just I was hanging around and part time.
Sure. You
At the
drove
time,
for
and-
Charlie Bogus, I think.
Yeah,
so.
I was working
Yeah.
security at Bradley Memorial for Charlie Bogus, and I was part time in there at the sheriff's office. Got started actually through the CETA program.
That's
back
right.
then.
Yeah.
And Joe actually, now I wasn't there when it happened, but Joe had overpowered a guard upstairs.
We were
And,
holding him for Monroe County.
we were holding him from
Yeah.
Monroe County
Yeah.
on a couple of murders. He had
Sure.
murdered a couple of young girls up there, and he actually came down the stairs and through the kitchen and out that side door to the kitchen. And next thing you know, I guess he was gone 10, 12 years.
Yeah.
before
Well,
he
maybe
was-
longer.
I know
was
what.
kept
after
Went
I
to
come back-
Canada and had a family, and had children.
went to
I went to
Canada, had a
Tellico
family.
Plains several times
Yes.
with officers, and we surrounded houses and trailers. He's
Oh, yeah.
supposed to have been in
Yeah.
the mountains
Yeah.
You'd
and
get
went with
word where he
Deadeye
was,
from up
and
in Monroe
And, you know,
County.
he may have been in those mountains that first
Yeah,
year. or
there's
so.
no way we would've got him in
we
those
never would
mountains.
know.
He
Yeah.
was caught because of an episode of
That's right. Yes, whatever.
America's Most Wanted.
Adam Walsh.
Was he not FBI's top 10 most wanted for
He
a while?
was.
Yeah.
He
Yeah,
was.
you know how you get on that list, don't you? They
No.
know where you are.
That's about right, yes. If they closing in on you, they say they'll move you up in the top 10. I don't know if that's true or not.
Hey, let's. We're gonna open the phones here. You can call us at 614-5553.
Bullet always calls in and he's on topic. I wonder if he's going to be on this topic today.
And now we don't ring anymore, guys. We flash.
Oh, wow.
Good morning. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Hello, Ron and Debbie.
Hey,
Miss Ella, how are you?
Rocky Top.
Well, I can tell you, I feel better than I did yesterday.
Well, you're sober today.
No, I went. My feet were hurting real bad yesterday. I thought I was going to fall. You know, I didn't think I was going to make it to Pokey's, but after I got to dancing, they don't hurt no more.
A couple beers will do that.
Anyway, I got to dance with Mark.
Bless your heart. Would you say hello to John? John Cook?
We got a bad connection, Ella.
Anyway, I had fun last night. First time in a long time.
Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah. Collins Brothers was there. They're good.
Yep. JoJo Collins, pretty good. I remember when he was a little kid. I remember when his daddy was a little kid.
I remember him. That's right, absolutely.
I shouldn't say it. His dad's a little older than me, but he'd like me to say that I remember when he was a kid.
Well, every time I see JoJo Collins, I go and rub my fingers through his hair.
I bet he loves that. I don't know what Holly thinks about it, though.
Yeah. Oh, he knows I like to play around, you know.
Yeah, he does. That's why he's worried. All right, Miss Ella, thanks for calling. Hope your feet get to feeling better.
Okay.
Bye, sweetie.
Already. Okay.
Bye-bye. You can call us here at 614-5553.
You know, I had something last night that, oh my goodness. I had something last night that I haven't had in a long time.
Okay, do we need to push the button?
Where's
No,
the
actually, I mean, it's Friday night, and I had total silence.
Total silence.
Oh,
TV.
no.
Yeah, my wife went to Atlanta to visit her sister. Lyric, my grandson,
Yeah,
went to
Lyric.
spend the night with my sister Rebecca.
Mm-hmm.
And Taylor, my granddaughter, went to spend the night with her Nana. And I looked around the house, and there was nothing.
Wow.
I turned the TV off
Yeah.
just to honor the situation. And
Sure.
literally sat there at about 1 o'clock this morning just enjoying
You should have wrote some
silence.
lyrics. If lyric was gone,
I
you
could
should have
have.
wrote some. Yes.
I had an idea. I'm not going to say.
Well, yeah, I've got an idea too, John. I've been wanting to share with you about some of your songs.
Let's get this call.
Go ahead, caller. Go ahead, caller.
Was
John, Ron, how you doing, buddy?
Hey,
Bullet.
Bullet.
I just heard you say a while ago that John had actually run. I'd like to be there to see that.
there was a day when I could do that. See,
Not far.
age and gravity,
Or
which
pulling
is,
on
which
him.
is what us old timers call
Yes.
overweight. It's just basically a gravity situation.
Bullet, I actually seen him touch his toes.
Really?
Oh,
I
wow.
bet him one day.
That scared me.
I bet him dinner that he couldn't bend over, put his hands above his head, bend over and touch his
Oh,
toes.
no.
And he did. But I never heard so much noise. His back popped. It sounded like a shotgun got off. It went bam, 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 bam. And he stood up, looked at me, and said, "Did you hear that?" I said, "Yeah, I heard that."
Don't do that again.
I didn't know if it was just me.
Hey, Bullet, call me after the show.
I will, and I like that on the chip.
Debbie, your husband's sitting right here.
He's going to say something to me. Yes, Bullet.
I ain't been in there to look at my grandmother's picture on your wall, Granny Hinkle, but my brother comes there every morning and gets me a sausage and biscuit.
Well, how good. I appreciate that.
I'm kind of lamed up right now. I've been on crutches now for about 7 days.
Oh, heck, really?
Yeah.
Actually, Bullet, you might not know this, but I actually sold the Rebel. Did you know that?
No, I did not know.
Yeah. My sisters and I still have the property, but a young man who wanted to be in the restaurant industry, we put it on him. So he's still.
So support him.
So
Go
yeah,
out
please
and
support
have
him.
some
Yes.
gravy and
They're
biscuits.
paying you rent, right?
Yeah, he's paying me rent. But we want the Rebel to live on, and everything's the same. But I appreciate you getting that sausage and biscuit every morning. That's good. And we loved Granny. We sure did love
I
Granny.
supported him last night with a purchase.
Hey, Bullet, if your feet's hurting, Miss Ellis said you got to go to Pokey's and drink a couple of beers and they'll get better.
Ron, make it real short, fast. But I think what my problem is, Ron, I've got 2 things going on with me right now. I've got an infection in my foot, plus I've got rheumatoid arthritis.
Yeah.
And so it's just one of them things catching up with me.
It's called age, Bullet.
Yeah, you're right. But I will call you, Deb, after what.
Okay.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Bullet.
Hey, Ron, back years ago, I was on the road working, and I come into the jail, and in preparation for moving to Johnson Boulevard, do you need to get that off?
Let's get that. Yeah,
Sure.
keep that story in mind.
Okay.
Go ahead, caller. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Well, good morning, you young children up there.
How you doing?
Hey, Miss Edna.
Pretty good. This is Edna. I wanted to tell you, none of you people, you're too young to remember the old county workhouse. I think you
Well,
Well, tell us about it,
yeah.
Miss Edna.
No, I beg to differ.
Well, she probably knew.
When I was a child, we took my daddy lunch up there a couple of times.
Go ahead, Miss Edna.
My uncle was a cook. He was in jail, but he was a cook up there. And we would walk out there every Sunday, and he would give us our dinner, our lunch. So I just wanted to tell you that, so you don't remember.
Okay, Miss Edna, who did you say was the cook?
Lost John Wallace.
Lost John Wallace.
What they called him, Lost John. He was just a boy. He was in jail for stealing some sheets or bedspreads or something.
Now, the old workhouse was right behind where we know Gondoliers
Yeah.
is.
Yes.
It was sitting right in that property.
Now, that was part of the county farm that stretched
Yes.
all the way over to where the agricultural center
Exactly
is on
right.
Travis Road. That was all the county farm.
And Robert Easterly told me that the road that we call Peerless now was called the County Farm Road.
Yes.
Wow, what about that? Yeah.
And it didn't go all the way over to 25th
Yeah.
Street.
Did it connect at Paul Huff?
It crossed over where Paul Huff is now.
Yeah.
Well, Paul Huff Parkway, I don't go out there too much. I stay down toward 25th Street, down that way.
You don't stay down there near Pokey's, do you?
Oh, I've never been up there. I've been sworn I was going to go some night. Just see Ella.
Just to see Ella.
Just
There
to
you
see
go.
Ella. It's worth seeing.
Now, they do have a good lunch up there, though.
Well, I don't go out much for lunch. If I do, it's just Wendy's or Captain D's or something. But I've been meaning to go up there. I really have. But none of my friends want to go where they sell beer.
Oh, I understand. Well, Miss Edna, it's always a pleasure, and call us back every week, okay?
Okay, now you say hello to that John Cook and tell him I'm mad at him because he quit selling those little lottery tickets. He sold those little lottery tickets.
I was running an illegal gaming enterprise.
Yes, she was.
What'd you do, get fired, John Cook?
He just moved on.
You were gone.
No, I had some other things I needed to be involved in.
John Cook don't remember me, but I used to be his neighbor down there on Sun Hill Road, and his wife, Teresa, helped me move some furniture.
I remember you.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Well, I'm still going strong.
Well, good for you, Miss Edna.
I won't hold it up. I have to talk to you people because I listen to Wolf all the time.
Well, we appreciate you.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye-bye.
I always love Miss Edna calling in because she remembers that generation back, and she
Yeah.
remembers Ron's grandmother and all of that. So it's always fun to hear from her.
Now, you had a story?
Oh, yeah, just briefly. We in preparation for moving to Johnson Boulevard, Chief Gilly at the time had hired a new jail administrator. And based on what we've been hearing today, we didn't know too much about managing inmates back then. I was taught you always carried your sidearm and took a shotgun upstairs. Well, the dispatcher called me in to wake up the trustees to help start breakfast. So I get my shotgun, I've got my sidearm, and I go up to wake them up. And this new jail administrator, who we had moved in here from somewhere, I don't think I should give his name, he jumps on to me about carrying a gun up there. He said, "What are you doing carrying that gun up here, Bryant?" I said, "Well, that's how you do it." "No, you do not. You're not allowed to carry your firearm up here in the correctional facility." I said, "Well, I've never heard of that in my life. I'm not going to come up here without a gun." He said, "If you carry a gun again up here, I'm going to write you up." Well, I didn't know this guy. I'd been there, 3 weeks. What's he? Who is he to be telling me what to do? So I get the inmates up, and they go help Miss Murray start breakfast, and I go back out on the road. And I'd been on the road. I might have made it to the monument. And dispatcher calls his report to Sheriff Lawson's residence. Back then it was his Station R. Well, I just knew that this guy had called Robert Lawson on me. So it just scares me to death. Oh, my gosh, he's calling me to his house. So you can imagine what that'd be like.
Oh,
John.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I start driving up to Fox Fair where Robert lived, and I couldn't even, my foot wouldn't hardly even touch the accelerator. I'm thinking, oh, he's going to fire me. I guess I have to walk home. He'll take my car. And I pull up in his driveway. By then I was mad. I said, all right, they can just have this job.
I was scared, now
I'll go
I'm
do
mad.
something else, So I was all riled up. Robert comes out and he gets in the car with me. I said, "Good morning, sir." He says, "I need to lift to work." He said, I need you to take me in. They got my patrol car last night, his county car, because we didn't have enough cars. And he hadn't called in on me at all. But so we get about to Michigan Avenue, and I get to telling him my story. He said, "That guy's not going to be around too much longer, so don't worry about him." And he didn't last but about another week, if you remember that, John.
Nope, he didn't.
Wonder what happened to him.
And I remember the guy prior to him, Tommy Tiaquin.
Yes, Tommy actually came back and worked for
And
us.
Tommy, he ran the jail, and he also cut the inmates' hair.
Yeah.
And he had a policy that you do not go upstairs with a weapon.
Okay.
Never. He preached it.
Yeah.
Never, ever, ever, ever.
But
And we get up there one day, and he's doing a haircut, and an inmate tries to jump him, and Tommy reaches down his boot and pulls a revolver out. And we got back downstairs. I said, "Wait a minute." He said, "I said, you never carry a weapon
you
upstairs.
never carry a
You
weapon."
never
Yeah.
carry a weapon
Yeah.
upstairs."
That's funny. Well, back then, contraband, it was just floating around everywhere. We had no controls in place. It was just terrible. It's not impossible now at the Blythe Avenue jail, but it's going to be we have video visitation. There's no
Yes.
one-on-one contact with the public.
Well,
And,
see, on Sunday at 1 o'clock, though, we allowed visitation was pretty much everybody's family just shows up, and that's the day they get to bring them eats and
Yeah,
snacks,
birthday
and,
cakes or whatever.
and cigarettes, and the favorite was 2-liter Cokes and Pepsis. Well, the little black plastic cap on the bottom of those 2 liters that keeps it stationary. It's kind of squared off, got a flat bottom. Those pop off, and they would just fill them up with marijuana and pills and glue them back on the bottle of the drink. They'd take candy bar wrappers and load them up, or one good cigarette out of the pack and refill. You couldn't.
well, we didn't have
You just
Johnson
knew
Boulevard,
Sunday
it was the
afternoon
same
everybody's
way.
going to be full and happy.
Right. They'd call me. They'd call me when I was over there as public information officer and say, "Can I bring some underwear to my son or grandson or nephew?" And our policy then, this is going back early 2000, was, well, you got to go to Walmart or wherever you want to go and buy it right now and bring it right now. We want the time on the receipt where you purchased it, and bring unopened a bag of Hanes or Fruit of the Looms or T-shirts, and we'll let your loved one have them. What we learned was they would go and buy the T-shirts today. They'd go home and they would pack them full of whatever they wanted to pack them full of and seal the bag back. Then they'd go to the store and get a receipt, a fresh receipt that was within an hour, and put it then with the T-shirts they actually bought yesterday, and they'd smuggle in pills that way. And so finally, when we went to Blythe Avenue, you can't bring anything. You can put money in your commissary account, and that's it. You
Buy
can't
it from the commissary.
you got to buy it from the commissary. Ma'am, mom, aunt, grandma, you're welcome to bring a money order or a cashier's check to us, and we'll put it in the commissary, and then they can purchase jail-proofed items.
You think contraband still gets in?
I don't know, John.
I
it'd
think
be
it
very
would.
difficult. It'd be very difficult. But, in prisons it does through the
Well,
guards.
you know, the guard
I think
system,
it's
yeah.
impossible
the
to
guard
stop.
system, but I don't think our guards. I don't know. I don't think that. I'd like to think that they wouldn't do that.
Hey, and if you've never had good homemade hooch made fresh in the toilet, man, oh man, oh
Fresh
man.
in the toilet. Is that what you
Yeah.
said? Oh.
Yeah, they do get these stingers. You know these little things you stick in your coffee cup and plug it in to warm up your coffee. Isn't that
Yep,
they
yep.
use those
They
stingers?
were allowed to have that.
They were allowed to have stingers, and they would get orange peel, tangerine
Orange,
peels,
bananas, whatever.
Sugar. They wouldn't put sugar
Yeah.
in their coffee. They'd save
They
it.
save their sugar and make them some hooch. Yeah.
You make a good, you take, especially in a cell block, where there were several toilets, one they would just make sure nobody used, of course. And
Flush it
they
2 or
would-
3 times. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
Sometimes they'd drop a bag in there and mix the hooch in it, but depending on how fast or in a hurry you were, if you could let it stay for a week or so, but usually started smelling within. So a lot of them drank it a little early. And
Well, I found some Raisin Jack in the
Got
at
sick.
Johnson City. They had in a Ziploc bag. They'd stored it underneath their bunk, and it had fermented at least 7 or 8 times, I
Yeah.
guess. And they were drinking that, and I'm going, they were desperate.
Yeah.
Oh
very
my
desperate.
gosh!
And these meth addicts do worse than that now. I don't know.
Yeah, I
what to
know.
Talk about
Yeah,
it. I mean,
that's
it's really-
unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. Yes.
Yeah. I'll tell you a story about former Sheriff Dan Gilly. Before he was sheriff, he was a reserve officer, and he had went out one night and arrested a guy down off Free Will Road back in those trailer parks back over Ponderosa Trailer
Yeah.
Park back there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, he was having a little trouble, and he'd called for backup. And we got there, and he's having a fight with this one guy, and Dan trying to hold him down, and the guy's a big, strong guy. He's just doing pushes ups with Dan there. So we got the guy in the jail, and he was just yelling and screaming. I knew the guy, and so we got to the old jail, and you got the old cell block.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went inside the cell block with him to hand the little stuff through the windows, and he's yelling and cussing
Oh, yeah,
Dan
yeah.
at me. He's calling him, and then finally I says, "You got to be quiet, be quiet." And I drug him around the corner. I says, "You want to get Dan good?" He says, "Yeah." That's all right. When I let you go, you pull away from me, and you run over there and yell at him at the bars. And so he would come around that corner, hollering, "You son of a," and he just and I'd give him, "Oh no, go come back over in there." And me and him sit around the corner and laugh for a minute. Then he'd go around there, and Dan was getting so mad. And I just,
Well, Ron used to be a reserve officer.
He did,
Ron
yeah.
actually was the captain or the chief. He was
That's
the head
right.
of the reserves
He's
for
the
a
head
while.
man. Yeah.
So he'd come by the jail there,
I'm the one
Justice
everybody
Center over on
complained to.
Johnson Boulevard all the time. And there was this one afternoon we were trying to book this guy in, and he just went off on everybody. And I wound up with him just right inside the Sally Port.
Oh yeah, I remember those days. Yes.
And I had this guy in a bear hug. I was trying to squeeze him, trying to do everything but slug him, because you didn't want to leave a mark. Just wanted to get him subdued.
Right.
And I was rolling this guy around, and we were wrestling. We fought, and he was getting the best of me. And I just decided this is not going to work any longer. So my intent was, I'm going to take him, and I'm going to sling him into this metal Sallyport door and knock him out.
Right. Yeah.
And so I did, and I whirled around. About that time, the Sallyport actually opened, and Ron was standing in it. And this guy, literally, I threw him right into Ron's arms. Ron grabbed him and said, what do you want me to do with this? I said, hell, just hold him for a while. I
Yeah.
said,
Let me take a break.
I'm tired. Ron's standing there, and this guy's just all over him.
And you're standing there going, "What is this?"
Yeah.
I was worried that the Sally door was going to shut back, and they're just going to leave me and him in there.
Right.
Well,
Who
yeah.
who was it that Andy Lockhart got into a fight with back there? And I think you take the jail keys. They were always a pretty good weapon,
Yeah.
Anyway, Andy's eyeball got knocked out on
Oh,
his cheek.
Smith.
That was that
Remember
was
that?
over on 2nd Street.
Yeah.
Leroy Smith.
Okay.
He had lit his mattress on fire and was
Okay.
standing on the
Standing in
market
the middle of
while
it.
it was burning.
Oh my goodness.
And Andy went in to get him out,
Yeah.
and he about poked Andy's eye out.
yeah, Andy said his eye was hanging
Yeah.
out here.
Leroy was a little mean and a little crazy.
Yeah,
when,
I'd say so.
when he was on his meds, he was nice. Hey,
Yeah.
go ahead, Caller. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Hey, I want to tell Johnny I'm so glad to hear him finally.
Miss Edna. Miss Anna Mae.
Anna Mae.
Hey, how are you doing?
She ain't made you any hot slaw in a while either, has she?
No, I've been
I've been pretty busy.
reduced to buying it at the store.
Bless your heart.
How are you doing?
Well, I'm doing okay, but losing my daughter-in-law, and I've been taking care of help here and there. So I ain't had time to make no hot slaw.
Hey, I understand.
I just want to tell you, I'm so glad to hear your voice. I wish you was back down there.
Well, I appreciate that.
How come John gets all these women calling in all the time?
I tell you, he was
It's unbelievable. That's the
I
third one.
He had lottery
I
tickets.
circulate.
Oh, was that it?
By
See, Anna.
I think there's a Dr. Seuss thing going on this morning at the library.
Yeah, there
is.
I failed to mention that. I think it's going on to 1 o'clock.
And I want to tell another story. We done pranks on each other constantly. I
Oh,
mean,
yes,
you would
yeah.
think that we were working serious, but you know, you spend a lot of time in very serious situations and dangerous situations, and then sometime when it was slow, we would pick on each other.
Yeah,
just
a little bit, sure.
And I know we used to get John quite often. John and Dan had went to a convention in Gatlinburg, and so that's when everybody had pagers.
Yeah, pagers before cell phones.
Oh, good Lord. This was nasty. This
So
was
I
it.
sent
Hey,
John-
I was climbing the ladder of success at the time. It's hard enough.
I sent John
That's
a
somebody trying to knock
text.
you down.
Of course, you don't know who the text came from back then. Not
Yes.
like on the phone now, but you sent him a
Back
text.
in the days when we didn't have Android phones.
Yeah.
We
Yes,
sent him
yeah.
a page, and it had an 800 number in there, and it said, "Please call as soon as possible."
Right, yeah.
Well, it was the Chattanooga Gay and Lesbian Hotline. So
Well-
John takes his, he calls from the hotel room,
Mm-hmm.
and so now there's a record
Yeah, yes.
of him calling
right,
the
right.
Gay and Lesbian
No,
Hotline,
yeah.
and he has to turn his bill in
Right, to the county.
Yeah,
Right, yeah.
And another time I have to admit that John was a.
Did you ever consider getting another friend?
Yeah, it hadn't worked out too good.
Actually, that was Cleveland State is having Dr.
Okay.
Seuss Day this morning.
And
to 1
then
o'clock.
one time
I keep trying to change the
I
subject.
was somewhere and there was a novelty store, and I went through there and it said, there was a little envelope that says U.S. Department of Health, and then on the bottom it said AIDS results test.
Age results test. Oh, no.
So I mailed John Cook one. I labeled it Bradley County Courthouse,
Yeah.
Chief John Cook. So it went to the courthouse first.
You're right, yeah.
So that everybody had to handle it over there. Then it come to John's secretary, and she sort of walked in and says, "John."
Are you okay?
And
yeah.
handed John, and John said he'd sit there for a minute looking at it, and he had something in it. I'd put some alcohol swabs in it,
Yeah.
and he's sitting there going, looking at it. He says, he pulled up. It was a year or so. But
Yeah.
anyway, he folds it up and puts it in his pocket. Goes home, throws it up on the counter there
Uh-huh.
with his keys, and his wife comes by and going, "What is this?"
Now, mind you, that was back in the days when we thought you could catch AIDS off doorknobs. Literally.
Yes,
Remember
yeah.
that? Yeah.
That's all right because I got the boy back big time.
He
did
did.
you?
He did get me.
Oh yeah, there was a period of time. We were always improving.
Yeah,
we
practical
went
jokes,
from the
they-
old jail and Second to Johnson Boulevard to, we were updating, going into the computer age. Well, we decided, psychological exams for everybody, especially
Absolutely, yeah.
new hires and so forth. And Ron had taken one. They were done at Hiwassee Mental Health.
Yeah.
And Ron was over the reserves at the time, and his came in, and it came to my office.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided, I said, this is interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
And I know you're not supposed to, I wasn't supposed to open it. It was,
I had passed with flying colors, so just say that.
Okay, yes. A
I
disclaimer.
opened it up, made a copy of it, and took the white out to the copy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Fabricated my own, resealed it, put it in the envelope, and I called Ron
Oh,
in.
he did a good job too. I
he?
mean,
I called
it was-
Ron in and I said, we need to have lunch.
Absolutely.
And we did. We went to lunch. Went down to Jenkins, matter of fact.
Yeah.
And I just was pretty somber the whole time. And Ron finally said, "What's up?" And I slid this envelope across the table and I said, "Listen, you're over my reserves,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of females in the reserves now,
Yeah, yeah.
and we've got some problems." Ron opens this up, and his psychological exam proceeds to tell us that we should not use him around female employees.
Right, yeah.
There's some sexual tendencies
Of course,
there.
which Debbie knew absolutely was not true, right?
Some red flags and so forth and so on. Ron's face was just, he was just like,
It's sick.
what could I have possibly said? This is not me.
Because the questions are like, do you prefer butterflies or
Or
puppy
red
dogs?
You know what the
right.
last thing out of his mouth was? Oh my God, I run charter. That's most of my employees are female. If they get a hold of, I said,
So
I
you
could-
thought you better tell him.
yeah. Well, I gave it pretty much at the end of lunch before I gave him his real
It was
name.
a good one.
Did
It
he
was a
get you
one.
good?
He got me.
Yeah.
I told him not to mess with me anymore.
Yeah.
And we got Alan Walsh good one time. David Sink,
Yeah.
who worked with the ambulance service. He
That
came
poor
over.
guy. You guys tortured him over being colorblind.
Who, David?
David, yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah, we. I won't tell all
The
the
man was
stories I did.
drawing blood.
Well, anyway, he came over to the jail, and John was been gone. So we sent David Sink back to see Alan Walsh, who was in charge of the jail when John was out. And we told him some questions to ask that he was going to be a federal jail inspector. Poor old Walsh.
Oh, I bet.
He asked questions at Walsh that no one really had an idea
Yeah.
to about ratios and things like
Sure.
this. And, you know,
Yeah.
he's going. He says, "Do you have any prisoners that are supposed to be here or not?" And Alan says, "No, Lord, no."
He's scared to death. You know, we had an officer back then that would like to work the interstate at night and make drug cases.
I know exactly. what it
Every
is.
car he stopped, now get this, had drugs in it.
Yeah.
Every car he stopped had drugs in it. And we all wondered,
Not just a little drug.
how does he do that? Well, here's how he did it. The truth came out. He didn't call in his stops. He would call in a 1081 stop. He would pull cars
Just the
over.
ones that hit.
He would pull cars over, and if they had drugs, he'd go back to his patrol car and call it in. I'll be doing a traffic stop at the 20 or whatever. That's how every car he stopped had
That's
drugs
how you
in.
get yourself killed.
That's
and
how you get
nobody
yourself
knows.
killed, exactly. That
Killer
was his-
stats, though.
Oh, he had good statistics, absolutely.
And we're not talking about a bag of marijuana. We're talking about pounds
yeah.
and it was pretty amazing.
Back in those days when that type of police activity first started, your smugglers didn't know how to hide them or didn't
Well,
even
when
think
Ron
to hide 'em.
patrolled, he would stop and call me from phone booths. That was how bad
Yeah, we didn't
communications
have-
were back then.
Yeah, I know, yeah. We always
Go-
kept a bunch of quarters with us.
Go ahead, caller.
Yeah, I've got one more question for you, Ron. Then I'll
Go ahead.
go. Back in the day, in '68, as a matter of fact, when
Back in the day.
ambulance come and pick me up, all we had then running was Fox and Ralph Butler Funeral. We didn't have all these ambulance squads and stuff.
Right.
Do you think we could survive now just running like Fox?
No,
No, I
we're
don't
too
think
big
so.
now. I think.
Not unless we were taking them directly to the funeral home.
How much my ambulance bill cost you then?
No.
$5.
Oh Lord.
Hey, I'll tell you what. I grew up. My dad was chief of the local rescue squad, and so I've been going to calls since I was a little boy. We go up here at Charleston Boat Dock once, where there was a drowning, and in those days, the reason why they would clear an ambulance to a call is so they could keep up with whose call it was. And the city dispatcher back then, he'd alternate these ambulances from these various funeral homes. Well, I won't name the funeral homes, but 2 funeral homes happened to get there at the same time, and these 2 funeral home directors get into an argument over who's going to get the body. And so my dad's having to separate these 2 funeral home guys because they're fussing over the body, you see, because if they transport the body, more than likely they'll get the funeral, right? So that kind of thing went on pretty bad back
Yeah,
then.
we've heard those
We're
stories
talking
before.
late 60s, mid 60s, yeah.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Bullet.
Bye.
Thanks a
Let
lot.
me, while we're kind of stopped here for a second, let me tell everybody about what happened yesterday in Charleston.
Okay.
For the last 7 days, people from the National Park Service have been in Charleston evaluating Fort Cass. And for most of you, you know that Fort Cass was 12 feet long and 4 feet wide, and it was the Cherokee Nation, and it was the
12 feet or miles.
miles. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was 12 miles.
I'm
long,
sorry.
4
I'm trying to
miles
think
wide.
of everything I want to say without, messing up, and then I mess up. But anyway, and it was also the military headquarters for the entire removal. So it was probably the most prominent place at that time for the removal. And I've been all over the United States. I've been all the way out to Oklahoma, and everywhere that you stop that's marked on the Trail of Tears, it tells you how far you are from Charleston, Tennessee, and Fort
Wow.
Cass.
I didn't know
So
that.
you can just imagine in your mind somebody walking that 300 miles or that 600 miles, and guess what place was not marked? Fort Cass
Really?
in Charleston, Tennessee was not marked. Well, it's going to be marked
That's
now.
so wonderful.
Great.
The National Park Service came in and did a big evaluation. They have identified 18 sites within that 12 by 4 mile area where there were encampments,
Really?
where there were military headquarters,
Wow.
where there were the agency was located, where It's
great.
big, folks. It's
I've
really
got a
big.
question. Cass, where'd that name come from?
The fellow that was in charge of the military movement's name was Cass.
Okay,
and
thank
that's
you.
where Fort Cass came from. But we're going to have, instead of the Hiwassee Heritage Center, by the way, folks, there's no charge to stop in there. There's some big signs that you can read all about the history of Charleston and Fort Cass, and some wonderful pictures to look at. You can stop in there. They're open pretty much business hours at this point in time. Eventually, we will have what looks like a bank that's been turned into a Hiwassee Heritage Center. Will look like a rustic building.
Good.
There will be a walk like the Greenway here that hopefully someday in our lifetime will come all the way down and meet the one at the Home Depot.
Wow.
All along the way, there'll be interpretive signs. It's a big deal, and we need people to help with that. But I sat there and cried like a baby because I had been there on the first few days of when people had these ideas in their head to get this done, and they got it done. And I have to name Darlene up at the Goins.
That's good.
That's been on our show, and Faye Calloway, and especially Shirley Lawrence. When I met her 15 years ago, she was so excited that they were finally getting Blythe's Ferry into place. And there's a place over there that you can go to, and it's on the National Trail of Tears, and you can see where the Indians went across the river and never turned back, never came back. But she was telling me about Blythe's Ferry. We just met down at Red Clay, and I didn't know her at the time, and she said, my next project is to get Fort Cass marked. And I said, well, where is that? And she was telling me all about it being in Charleston, and I thought, well, I wonder if this is all true. Well, it was all true, and much more of that. We've actually found a map, or I didn't find it, somebody else found it, in Mr. Lillard, Roy Lillard's files at Cleveland State, a map from 1839 of Charleston.
Really? What about that?
And yes. So there's some really exciting things historical wise happening in Charleston, and you guys need to watch and go to their history meetings and be involved up there. If all you can do is come and volunteer or just come and look. But there's we know where all the ferries were now. And what they did is they took all the local people's research and made it into something.
And there'll be huge brown signs out on the interstate that says this is the place to get off and find out about Fort Cass.
Yeah.
Tourism dollars, Bradley. I've talked about this for a long time, is that Bradley County has been behind, one of the most historical places in America, Fort Cass, no one knows about. It's not marked, and now thanks to the National Park Service, this is going to change tremendously.
So now we're going to have a sign in Charleston, Tennessee that says it's 652 miles to West Hill, Oklahoma.
That's so neat. That's good. Yes.
Yeah, it was an amazing day, and I really appreciate it. Melissa Woody's been really instrumental in all that too. And there's a lot of people there's some little man, I don't know his name, but he did half of the remodeling up there. If they just buy the parts and stuff, he's remodeled. Tom Cry has donated his architecture skills.
Tom's a good guy.
He's drawn pictures for us. We've got the real deal, and we're not paying for it.
That's so neat.
So
that's even better.
I'll just keep everybody informed, but I just wanted to mention that before we go to break.
Bradley County folks, step up, particularly your county commission, step up and support this project. This is going to mean tax dollars because of tourism dollars to Bradley County.
And I will mention that Terry K. Wood and
Louis
Alford were there yesterday, and they listened. And especially Mr. K. Wood asked really good questions. There's going to be 2 driving tours in Charleston, Tennessee, that you can drive up and you could pull off the side of the road. They're going to make little turnouts that you can get out of your car and you can stand there and you can look where there was an encampment or where the agency was, where the military headquarters was.
That's amazing.
And I just ask most, when people come walking around on your property, of course the owners came to see what was going on.
Sure.
Everybody they happened to talk to said, sure, you can put a turnout on my property and you can put up the historical markers. And this is going to be a 15 or 20 year project.
Yes.
But by George, we've made it.
Yeah, it's so good.
I want
Congratulations.
to mention before we go to break here, we lost a good friend this week to Old Town Cleveland, and that would be Mr. Pappy Lee. And Pappy always called in on Saturday mornings and had the neatest things to tell us about. He was a wealth of information, an incredible historian. His real name was Russell Wesley Lee, and he's retired from Bowaters, and so I know a lot of folks up there might remember him, and we'd like to say our condolences to his sweet wife and the rest of his family. And when we go to break, we'll play Gone Home for Pappy Lee and for anyone else that we lost this week.
Yeah, and the Self family.
Oh, Bid Self,
Oh,
yes.
yes.
Nora Bid Self, affectionately known as the Mayor of East Cleveland.
That's right.
And if you wanted to know what was going on in East Cleveland, you go see Bid.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a great lady, and I'm glad you mentioned her. I was about to give.
She had permission to whip me.
And she did, didn't she?
Yeah, back in the day. There we go. Back in the day.
There you go. Yeah.
Your parents would usually give the next door neighbors permission to whip you if they saw you do anything wrong, which was a horrible injustice because, Bid would lay into you, then she'd tell your mom and dad when they got in, they'd relay into you for Bid happened to lay into you.
That's good. That's good. Ron, are we going to play our other racing song during the break?
Yeah, when we come back here.
When
we'll
we
talk
come
about it.
back. Okay.
And we're going to talk about some things back. A lot of people may not know. There was some nights in Bradley County, there was only 2 police officers in all of Bradley County. Bradley County hadn't changed since 1838. So there was a lot of roads, and a lot of times we actually would call in with different numbers to appear that there were more than one car out there.
Right.
In case the criminals had
I think
scanners.
one night
And
there was-
when one of us went to lunch, there was only one car out there.
I think one night all the vehicles were torn up except one, and the officer that night and all the reserve officers drove around in one car, and they would all call in at different times. All right, here we go, folks. We're going to be back in about 4 or 5 minutes. Hang with us.
WOOP LP, Cleveland, Tennessee.
You need money overnight? Check into cash. Your time is tight. .com. Bank account's too low? Check into cash. So where do you go? .com. Do it online in a record time. It's the easy way to get money next day. Do a quick click from home at checkintocash.com. Just stay in the house, check into cash, and grab your mouse. .com. Get your money online, check into cash, right on time. .com. You can be sure it's secure from our bank straight to yours. Do a quick click from home at checkintocash.com. No time to get away, check into cash. You've got to stay home.com. Hey, that's okay, check into cash. You can do it alone.com. Any old time, do it online. Just stay in the house and grab your mouse. Do a quick click from home. Get your money overnight at the right website. Do a quick click from home. Go to checkintocash.com.
Wheeler Technologies has moved. Visit them at their new location at 490 Grove Avenue Southwest next to Bradley Rentals. Same great folks, same great service with a better location to serve you. Call Wheeler Technologies for voice, data, and security needs at 664-TECH. That's 664-8324. And remember, depend on Wheeler Technologies for the current time and temperature every day at 476-1111. Tennessee Alarm Contractor C1750. Kiesler Incorporated is in the business of recycling your metal, and they pay cash. The only covered scrapyard around where you can recycle rain or shine. They're located off the bypass on Overhead Bridge Road. Automobiles, appliances, copper, stainless steel, tin, all metals can be recycled at Kiesler, and you can walk away with cash. That's right, they pay cash, and they are the friendliest scrapyard in the Southeast. If you have unwanted metal just laying around, bring it to Kiesler Recycling today and walk away with cash. Kiesler Recycling open Monday through Saturday, 7:30 to 5, or call for more details, 614-3000.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. for Nationwide Mutual Insurance Company.
In NASCAR, you always want to be first. In the nation, being first is just as important. At Nationwide Insurance, we put members first because we don't have shareholders. It's why the Earnhardt family has trusted Nationwide Insurance for more than 35 years. Nationwide is on your side.
Call Eric Neff, Nationwide Insurance, Brian Norton Agency, downtown Cleveland, 599-1026.
Nationwide is on your side.
Nationwide Mutual Insurance Company and affiliates, Columbus, Ohio. Paid endorsement. Not all Nationwide companies are mutual companies. Not all policyholders are members of a mutual company.
A few clouds hanging out for your Saturday, but otherwise a gorgeous day in store for the Tennessee Valley area. A lot of sunshine through those clouds throughout the afternoon. Highs will be around the mid to upper 60s. Overnight tonight, not quite as cold. We'll see lows in the low 40s. And then for your Sunday, partly sunny skies with highs in the low to mid 60s. That's a look at your weather forecast here on 99.9 Whoop FM.
This is for all those people who's gone home.
All of my friends that I loved yesterday have gone. They have gone home. Gone home. They have gone home. The songbirds are singing. The dells seem to say have gone. They have gone home. Gone. They have gone home. They've joined the heavenly fold. They're walking the streets of pure gold. They left one by one as the work here was done. Gone home. They have gone home. Gone home. They have gone home. Life here is lonely since they've gone before. Gone. They have gone home. Gone. They have gone home. The old weeping willow that stands by the door sadly sighs. They have gone home. Gone home. They have gone home. They've joined the heavenly fold. They're walking the streets of pure gold. They left one by one as the work here was done. Gone home. They have gone home. Gone. They have gone home. They've joined the heavenly fold. They're walking the streets of pure gold. They left one by one as their work here was done. Gone home. They have gone home. Gone home. They have gone.
That goes out to Pappy and to Bid. They're gone home. We try to play that song every week to all of our special guests that we have here. If I can stop this, everybody's about to get up here. You never know what you're going to find on Whoop, the music there. So, but yes.
I make Ron move the keyboard so that he doesn't accidentally
Yeah,
touch
you
it
can
because
bump
some
that thing
things
so easy. Yeah. We were
don't
talking
need to hear
about policing and sheriffing before it got fancy and modern, and just a lot of the old
No
stories
tasers.
and tasers or tear gas, and we used to have slapjacks at one
Used
time.
to have slapjacks.
But we got Chip Bryan in here with us, longtime member of the Bradley County Sheriff's Department, and John Cook, longtime member of the Bradley County Sheriff's Department, and they're here. And we hadn't heard from any of the old city policemen there, but they had a couple good ones there, and of course.
I recall when we used to take the money bag from my dad's business to the Cleveland Police Department. I'm glad I remember to say that.
Oh, wow.
There wasn't night drops at banks, and so you'd go down after you closed. My dad had a restaurant, and he'd take the money bag to the Cleveland Police Department, and the dispatcher had a big drawer, and it'd be full of money bags from local businesses, and drop it in there. There wasn't a sign-in sheet or wasn't anything to sign. Your name was on it. The next morning, he'd go by the Cleveland Police Department, pick it up. Is that not amazing?
That is amazing.
I know, yeah.
Yeah,
John's finding that humorous.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, he was talking about was no, formal documentation
right.
and I recall at the old jail. When I say the old jail, I'm speaking of Second Street downtown.
Yeah.
To me, that's the old jail. I never, I left the department in 2000, so I never went out to
Blythe Avenue.
But medications.
Yeah, gosh. How was
for
that
the
handled?
inmates. The way medications were handled at that time, we had a shoebox.
Wow.
And big
It
shoebox.
was the official shoebox.
Yeah,
though,
it was the
wasn't
official medication shoebox. It had all the bottles of pills and everything. And you would just take this shoebox if you were the person asked to perform the duty, and you'd walk down the catwalk outside the cell block, and you'd just basically say, "Hey, who's got medication?"
Yeah.
And these hands would reach through the cell block bars, and you'd hold the shoebox out, and they'd get what was theirs.
And
Take it and toss it back in the shoebox.
And if the guy who's supposed to be getting it happens to be asleep, then someone else just got it.
Probably. Yeah.
Well, you remember that a lot of times back when you didn't know where the prisoners were, you just knew they were in jail.
That's exactly right.
Like
yeah.
in the downstairs lockup was the guys we arrested that night going to go to court, and we'd have 30, 40 people in a cell block with 6 beds. I mean, it'd be unbelievable. And but you go in and just yell a name, and whoever answered you is the guy who you released.
The drunk tank.
Well, we forgot to
I
release
can imagine
one guy.
that smell.
We put a guy in the hole down in the dungeon, recall, and he was left in our week. We didn't know he was down there. And we go down, we hear somebody hollering, so we go down and get him out. Andy Shelford does, and the guy's just mad as he can be.
Look at John with his hand raised.
And Andy says, "Get out of here, boy! Can't you take a joke? Get out of here!" Oh boy, hit the sidewalk and left.
Well,
You recall that?
my guy left in there for a weekend, and he's deceased now.
Yeah.
It wasn't because of that.
Right.
Well, it's part of it.
So I won't mention his name, but it was on a Friday afternoon and a Friday night rather, and the only person there was myself and the dispatcher, and they bring this guy in. He was high on liquor and Quaaludes, which is the big thing, Quaaludes. Yeah. And you couldn't hurt him. They just threw him in the walk around. And there I was, and it's like a cartoon episode, when somebody hits you and you see the big flashes, like a Batman episode.
Yeah.
About the 4th, 5th time this guy hit me, that's what I was seeing. And I knew it. He's about to kill me.
Right.
And finally, somehow I managed to get him down to the floor. And me being a big fella, I just plopped down and sat on his chest. Yeah. And you could hear the air.
Leaving
his lungs, saying, "Oh God," And I dragged him downstairs, put him in the hole. At that time, we had a place downstairs called the Hole. It was the size of a small closet, and the door was solid, so no light could enter.
And a hole in the floor.
And a hole in the floor. Yeah. Now, we were allowed to keep someone in the hole for 24 hours. That's to calm them down, teach them a lesson. Well, this guy broke my glasses, ripped the collar off my shirt.
That's bad enough right
and
there.
It was about time for me to leave shift anyway, so I went home.
You had to buy your own shirts back in.
That's
we did.
Right, yeah.
I went home, went to my apartment, took a good bath, and went to sleep. Didn't come back into Monday morning. And Monday morning, they hand out the list of people they want you to go down the catwalk, call out their names, and get them out for court. And I call out this guy's name, and when I did, my eyes just lit up. I said, "Oh my God, surely somebody got him out of the hole." And no, they didn't.
Still down there.
He was still down there, and I knew this guy was dead.
Oh boy.
Here goes my career. I go down and I open up the door, and this guy comes crawling out, and he looks up at me and he says, "Sir," and I said, "Yeah." He said, "Can you help me?" I said, "I'll try." I said, "What happened?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "Some big guy tried to kill me and left me down here." And I reached down and got him under the arms and helped him up. And I said, "Son," I said, "if I find out who it was, I'll fire the SOB myself."
Yeah.
And I got
I'm
him.
sorry, caller. Call back here.
I got him out and cleaned him up, and he was like my best buddy.
Oh,
that
yeah.
day.
He never did know it was you. Yeah.
Tell Chip about when you had your office over there many years later, the door.
Yeah, I remember that office. Yeah.
Grief. Yeah, my private investigation business, I actually moved my offices into the old county jail on 2nd Street, which was awesome because they've renovated
it didn't
inside.
Smell
and
anymore.
It is beautiful inside there. I mean, it's beautiful office spaces. But the closet that we use for office supplies has a door in it that just shouldn't be there, and I wondered what it was. So I opened it up, and actually it just goes into a small 1 foot wide crawl space, and you get in there and you look, and there's an old metal frame of a doorway, and it's got years and years and years of of that lead-laden silver paint that we used every year when it was time to clean the jail up. We'd just slap more lead paint on it. And I realized this was the where the stairwell went to go upstairs to the main cell blocks, and that was really neat. But I guess 2 or 3 days after moving in, I called Ron up and I said, "Man, there's something wild going on here because it's hard to get the door open. You got to grab it with both hands and get the knob twisted. And you can ask Ron; it's difficult to open." But every morning I would come in and this door is open. And I would secure it at night and take a picture of it just to prove it. And I come in the next morning, that door's open. And finally called my buddy Ron, because Ron is all into this stuff. Ron is into the paranormal.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And I sat in there late one night, about 2 in the morning, and made sure that door was secured and heard something creak, got up, went across the hall and opened it up, and there she was standing open.
Well, then we started leaving it open, and it would be closed.
Oh, really?
Hey, go ahead, caller.
Seriously, yeah.
Hey, this is Sherry. Good morning.
Good morning.
I see a lot of my favorite people around that table today.
Okay, well, good.
Renaming 3 of them, the Three Stooges or the Keystone Cops.
Oh, yeah.
But Debbie...
Well, you know, ladies, my wife is in Atlanta tonight, and I don't have kids at home, so...
Debbie, this question's for you, though.
Okay.
What's the most scaredest you ever were about anything that was going on when they were on the force? I know it wasn't all fun and games.
Oh, I will tell you that I quit listening to Police Scanner because I would hear Ron calling for help. And there wasn't nobody to help him.
Right.
Or he was up on the north end of the county, and the officer would call in from the end of Spring Place Road. I'm on my way to help you. And you'd have these, he would be out dealing with the people too, and there'd be these long periods of silence. And when that dispatcher would start calling his number and he wouldn't answer, he would just terrify me. So I just didn't listen. Yeah. I finally said, I'm not listening anymore.
There were lots of times when you didn't have backup. There
you didn't have a radio on your hip in those days. You only had one radio, and it's in the car.
Yeah, and when you worked for Lamar, you didn't carry a nightstick or anything. Basically, you had you and your gun, and when you pulled your gun out, kill somebody. That was sort of the rule.
That's it.
If the gun come out of the holster, shoot somebody. If not, just handle it.
But there wasn't varying degrees of force like there is now.
No,
You've got
no.
what's called the force continuum.
It was whip them or shoot them.
That's it, right.
Oh, and the other scary thing was when they'd make the blood runs to the ferry in Meigs County. Because you knew that they were going dangerous speeds, and they were trying to get there because somebody needed blood and they were dying, and it was that desperate. And you would know that they were putting themselves in real danger to get there.
Yeah, I imagine blood runs were the most violent, dangerous runs you could go on back in the day.
Or if you get a call and there's a child in the house and there's someone breaking in the house, you would do everything in the world to get there as fast as you can.
Yeah. I did one blood run in my career. By the time in 85, I became a detective, and so I wasn't in patrol car anymore. But somewhere along in there, the blood run stopped, and I don't know why. Do you know why? Did
I don't
facilities
know.
start having
I guess
blood?
made more blood.
You know, one thing now in preparation for surgery, you start giving blood beforehand.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Maybe their protocols have changed, but I've not heard of a blood run in years.
Yeah, well, of course, we don't pay as much attention probably either.
That's true too. Yeah.
Go ahead, caller.
Well, I know that we felt a lot safer back then. And I wonder why there's 3 or
Well,
4
I think the police officers then had the opportunity to make some judgment calls. And now there's so many restrictions and stuff, but it was...
there was a lot.
They're all young now.
There was a lot of stuff going on that as a civilian you didn't know. I mean, Ron would come home on Sunday nights, and I'd been to the park with the kids and went to McDonald's. And,
the park.
And it, to me, it was just a nice, calm evening and afternoon, and then he'd tell me about all the things that he'd been through,
We had a lot of flexibility in what we did. We operated more under the color of the law than we did the letter of the law.
Yeah.
And every situation was different, so you had
now when there's a traffic stop,
a lot of opportunity to...
cars have to go to that traffic stop.
You know, you made your own decision on who you arrested.
Right.
And if it was your call, it was your choice. The worst thing a supervisor could ever do is drive up and say, arrest those 3 guys, and drive off. That's happened to me before. And you're like, I don't have anything against them. What
Right.
How am I going to arrest them? So suddenly they were all publicly intoxicated, and you'd arrest them.
Yep.
Well, I appreciate all of you guys.
See ya.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Chip, did you ever wreck a car?
Yes, I didn't wreck a car that I reported. Yeah.
Okay.
No,
Statue's out now.
I never let anybody know. One night I was sitting down at racetrack, not by the speedway. There's a store down there called the racetrack. Whatever it's called. And between that was a divided highway. There was a ditch between the 4 lanes. Now you can drive straight across. And it's 3:00 in the morning. A car comes by and I want to pull him over. So I just pull out and nosedive right down in that ditch. And I didn't want Larry Ballantyne to know about it because I figured he'd fire me. So I get on the radio and I say, 708 need a wrecker, racetrack market on South Lee Highway. Got a car in the ditch here. And I hope Gallagher gets here as soon as he can. So sure enough, here comes Gallagher. He snakes me out right quick. And I said, don't let anybody know how much I owe. He said, you don't owe me anything, Chip. So I took off to the car wash, the quarter car wash, and washed all the mud off. And no one never knew about that until today.
Right
confessions, true confessions.
Good for the soul.
Good morning. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
I do feel better.
Good morning, Red.
I have a question.
Okay.
Why do they not give the inmates that are in jail medicine if they need it?
Well, they do.
They didn't. My cousin.
I don't know about that particular case, but any inmate, and of course I've been gone 4 years, maybe 5. Any inmate has to have a medical exam within so many hours if they don't post bond. And at that point, they tell the nurse, and there's a medical examiner, a medical person who's attached to the jail over there, what medication they're on, and then they make a determination at that point if or not they think the person needs the medicine. Because they're diabetic, they're going to get their medicine.
Okay.
You know.
They put my first cousin in there. He was billed 8 months because he had a wreck down Dalton Pike or something. It was his fault. And his mother went back before the judge and asked if he could have his medicine, and they turned her down. About 3 weeks later, they turned him out when they saw how sick he was, and he died 2 days later.
Well, that's unfortunate.
That's
yeah.
Unfortunate, yeah.
So I don't think they play it fair.
Well, we're kind of talking about the old days.
I noticed that.
Well, we just locked him up in the basement for 2 days.
Yeah. Red, unfortunately, in the old days, if your medicine fell out of the shoebox, you wouldn't got your medicine.
Yeah, that's it, yeah. That's really unfortunate.
I wouldn't want to have been around then, I don't think.
I don't want to be in jail, period.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Red.
John, you ever wreck a car?
No.
Did you? No.
I'm standing by that.
Well, unfortunately, I was in one, and
got rear-ended once, but I didn't.
Well, I'll tell mine here in a minute. I got hit, and it's an interesting story.
I think I kind of remember it. I'm looking forward to
Go
hearing it.
ahead. It's Collier live on Old Town Cleveland.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
This is RD.
Hey, RD.
Hey, glad to hear about your Charleston deal. That sounds.
Oh, it was wonderful, RD. And they said that you'd been up to the Heritage Center.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I thought that was very interesting. Well, I got a story about police activity here. When I first moved here in '88, I lived right off of 75, right around mile marker 1718. There's a farm. If you're going southbound, it's to the right. There's some billboards, a barn that's fallen in now. There's Wendell Bryan on that. That's where I first lived. And we moved up here, down the road here off to Harris Creek. And back then, right after we moved, there was some prisoners that escaped from up north who were staying at the KOA.
Oh, yeah.
And I believe one of them ended up coming to grief there in the back field where that place
yes.
to live. The other one was on the run. Well, my mother-in-law was down. She was from Pittsburgh, and she's a city woman. To her, this was the wilderness and most backwards place, that kind. So that night that happened, we're in her house, and all of a sudden, boom, 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 on my front door. My mother said, "Who is that?" And she never did like me much. And I said, "That's the police." I said, that is not a hello knock. That's a I'm coming in the house knock. So I opened the door, and there's police swarming up and down this road. And this officer standing there, he said, "Sir, is there anybody in your house?" And I said, "My mother-in-law, my wife, my boys here, anybody else hiding, there was a wood lot used to be right here. Anybody around? You see anybody run around here?" Look and explain what happened. I said, no, I haven't seen anybody, but you're welcome to come in, look around if you want, but I guarantee there's nobody in here. He said, all right. Officer says, "Do you have any guns in the house?" And I said, "Well, yeah." "Oh, yes, I do." And he said, "Well, arm yourself." He says, "Guy's on the run here." He said, "You might want to call your neighbors, too. Tell them to be on lookout and keep gun handy." Wow. And he left. And my mother-in-law threw the biggest fit over that. What kind of backwards those people that get guns and arm themselves?
From Pittsburgh, I
Well,
imagine so.
I thought our dude's going to say is, I don't know that woman over there.
yeah, that's what you do.
stranger.
It was tempting, but I'll never forget that. She talked about that the day she died. You talk on police just telling people to get guns.
Yeah.
I said, you got them already.
Well, you know, shortly, I don't know that time, but we found him down there in the woods. I was there, matter of fact. I was just riding around in my personal car, hoping he would jump out.
Yeah.
And I was just a special deputy for
Sure.
then, but they all ran out in the woods, and I ran down there, and I'm going, I've got on a white shirt. This is not a good idea. And then all of a sudden, it sounded like World War I had broke out. There was gunfire everywhere. And ironically, they didn't hit him. He shot himself.
Yeah.
Through that, all those
I
bullets was
recall,
fired,
yeah.
and
Right,
he shot himself.
That's right.
Yeah, I'd heard that from my neighbor over there afterwards. But
Yeah, we remember
Is that
that
the
well.
KOA campground case?
Yes.
I
Yes.
worked
Yeah.
that case. Yes.
remember that? The morning after that, I woke up with a helicopter flying around
Yeah,
over
yeah.
those woods.
I'm sure that impressed your mother-in-law too.
It did, because I walked out. I had, kind of a military-style rifle in my hand, and the guy leaning out the helicopter was strapped in with a monkey strap and had an M16. And he looked at me, and I waved at him. He kind of hovered over the woods, and I looked around in there and gave him the wave, and they flew off. My mother-in-law just said, "Get back in the house." And I said, she ain't going to shoot me. So,
He says, here, handed her the gun, says, go out there and stand.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah.
all right, listen, y'all take care now.
I
Thank
think.
you. I scared Ron real good one night. He was coming down the driveway, and the police happens to be chasing somebody in the neighborhood, and the guy ran off in the ditch, and he jumps out of the car and
Ran
runs
behind the church and ran right toward me. Didn't see me and ran right up there to me almost.
Wow.
And so Ron and this police officer go down in the woods, and they're looking for this guy. Ron has his gun drawn and stuff. Well, I had seen Ron turn in the driveway. So what did I do? I went up and opened the front door so he could get in easily.
Yeah.
And then when he didn't come in a few minutes, I thought, what's going on? And so that's, of course, when we had pagers. Well, I paged him, and he's out in the woods with his gun drawn, and he goes, bzzz.
You've got the front door open.
They lucky something didn't get shot.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
he thought he'd been killed.
Go ahead,
for-
Collie. You live on Old Town Cleveland.
Yes, you talking to me?
Yes, I am.
Good morning.
I got a phone call earlier, said y'all wanted to talk to me. This is Sharon Harper Wade.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, Sharon. How are you?
Your father was Harpo.
That's right.
Well, tell us all about Harpo. And we love the picture of his badge that you sent us. And we love the picture of him with the patrol car.
Thank you. He loved his job there. He wasn't there long. What it was is he was running a gas station up on 20th Street and Ocoee, where they just put in the gift shop thing.
Uh-huh.
And Clifton Pierce and Daddy were friends, and the Republican Party was looking for somebody to run for sheriff against Paul Jones.
Uh-huh.
So Clifton said he didn't have the money to buy the signs and stuff. He didn't want to run, and Daddy says, well, I can run, but I don't have a Chinaman's chance to win it. So anyway, they both ran against each other in the Republican primary, excuse me, and they had it made up that whichever one won, the other one would go to work for him as the chief deputy.
Yeah.
So Clifton won, and Daddy was his deputy, and they had two deputies and the sheriff, and you all talk about reserve. Their reserve was the constables.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If they hadn't had the constables to help them, I don't know what they would have done, because, like I've said, there wasn't near as many people in Bradley County back then, but they had the same amount of miles to cover.
That's right. That's right. Sharon, the picture in the deputy's car, I think that's when they got police radios, and that was 1957. Where was that picture made?
Southley Highway.
I've heard that.
Southley Highway, what, close to Payne Gap truck stop?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Well, see, it's changed so much now. I have actually stood out on the edge of the road and looked looked and said, well, it looks kind of the same, but not the same. So I'm glad you cleared that up. Matter of fact, we needed a picture of an officer to go in our dirt track documentary, and we couldn't find Mr. Barger. So we put your dad in there in the patrol car, and it looks really good in there because it was the exact time frame, the 1960s Barger.
Okay. Did I send you that picture?
You sent me an old guy, I think.
Oh, there's been 2 Bargers, I think.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll look
This
and
would
see.
have been Jim Barger's brother. J.R. was a deputy, and then their dad would have been sheriff, or their uncle had been
Sharon,
sheriff.
while we have you on the phone, let's get a little off topic here. Tell everybody about the businesses your dad and your uncle owned up on North Lee Highway, because I'm sure a lot of our listeners remember those being built and them being there.
Well, let me give you just a tad of history, then I'll tell you real quick.
Okay.
My dad and Uncle Max were born in Reliance, Archville. There was 22 children.
Wow.
My dad was the oldest boy. His oldest sister was Ruth Stillwell, Judge Roy Stillwell's wife. But they all went to Detroit, Michigan, Dad and Max and his brother Gene Harper, to go to work because there was no work around here. And Dad worked at Republic Aircraft, and they closed down when the war was over, 2 years after I was born. And all of them came back to Tennessee, and instead of going to the mountains, they ended up in Cleveland. And Dad bought all that property. He bought it from what is now, it used to be Bradley Street. I think they've changed the name of it, right straight across from Tasso Lane, all the way up to 56th Street. And then he sold the upper part where Dr. Jones and Dr. Truitt and Dr. McCoy built their homes. And come on down, and Carl Ramsey and Jess Ruth Ramsey put in their little motel there. And there was nothing else from the Ramsey's house to down to what's Airport Road now. Dad built a gas station, and we rented a house down where old Jenkins Deli, where the Mouse Creek crossed right there. There was some houses right in there. I think there's a bank there until the building was built. And G.B. Lee built the building, and we had a bedroom and a bath in the back and a kitchen on the side where Mother would sell sandwiches. She used to make grilled cheese and hamburgers and fried bologna sandwiches and sell them. And so Uncle Max decided, he was a sawmiller by trade, and he wanted to build a house by Daddy, so he sold him that upper lot where the brick company went out not long ago. Our house was built eventually where the trailer park office is down there, kind of across the creek. But we lived in that station for 2 years until he got enough money to build a house, and Uncle Max built his house, and then he decided he didn't want a sawmill anymore, so he built the skating rink, North Lee Skating Rink.
Wow.
And he ran that for years and then turned it into a bowling alley, and that's the history of that.
Who lived in the house that's just south of the gas station? It's an older house sitting right on the edge of the road, and they've really let it go down. Who lived in that house?
Mother and Daddy.
Did they?
Molinex, Mother and Daddy.
Okay.
And Virginia. And
okay. What I need, Sharon, is a picture of your family standing out in front of that house.
Family?
I'm sorry.
I didn't hear you.
I need a picture of your family standing out in front of that house.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
I don't know if there is.
Well, just look for one and see what you can find. I keep trying to get Sharon to come on our show, but she says she doesn't have anything to tell us.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But, Sharon, we love your daddy's pictures, and we appreciate you calling in today, and we want you to call in more often.
Oh, I might.
Thank you, dear. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Sharon's one of those people that shares, though. She sent me, and that reminds me, Ron, I need to send her family history back to her. You remind me.
Okay. And you're listening to Old Town Cleveland here. Our guests today are Chip Bryant and John Cook, longtime retired people from the Bradley County Sheriff's Department now. They don't run around like they used to here, but
well, they still get
you
around.
can call us here at 614-5553 like this caller. Good morning. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Yes, sir. My dad was a county deputy and a city police officer, both back in the early 60s, late 50s.
What was his name?
Tom Kimsey.
Okay.
Oh, yes. I remember Tom Kimsey. Yes, sir.
Good memories or bad?
Well, everything's positive as my mind scans itself. Everything I remember about Tom Kimsey was positive. I knew a Kimsey that used to coach football.
Well, that was a different one.
Okay, yeah. Did your Tom live on Old Chattanooga Pike?
No, I lived on Stewart Street, right across from the post office.
Okay. Do you have any good stories from back then?
Yeah, I was just going to say real quick, like that we had back then, when I was growing up, when the police pulled you over, the worst thing that they usually did to you was they'd say, "Now, is your father so-and-so?" And they'd take you home.
Wow, yeah.
That's the worst thing, if that's from hubcapping up at Deer Park, a few things like that. That's major. But they would take you home, and that was a far worse punishment than going to jail.
Amen. Yeah. Well, that's good. Well, thank you for calling in.
Do you have any old photographs from back then?
I do.
We'd love to get those. Yeah, please scan them and send them to us. Put them up on Facebook or something, right, Debbie?
That's right.
You can figure it out. That's the worst thing, is trying to figure Facebook.
Well, bring them to us. We'll do it.
Come down here to the show one day, and we can scan them and take care of that for you.
And get your original back to you.
Oh, I'll do that.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
And if you don't get your pictures scanned, while you still know everybody that's in them, people every week bring me pictures that they'll say, "Do you know who this is? I think my daddy's in this picture somewhere."
Yeah.
So you really need to start writing stuff down.
Yeah, we post a lot of pictures on. Anytime I find an old picture, I put it on Facebook.
Yeah.
I don't care if I know who's in it or not. Matter of fact, does anybody know these people? And someone almost always knows them.
Most of these law enforcement pictures Wendell Davis gave to me back when I had interest in this, and still do.
And Chip, you've done a tremendous job of finding all the pictures of the old sheriffs. I know, John, you started working on that, and then Chip.
Yeah, John launched it, and I finished
and,
it.
just a tremendous history there of that. And I tell my story is I'm going to answer the phone first. Good morning, you live on Old Town Cleveland.
Good morning. This is Marilyn.
Hey, Marilyn. Marilyn spent some time in jail.
Don't worry, John. I won't tell anything.
Oh, John over there about ready to die.
I was just about to brag on Marilyn. She was a great corrections officer. Did a good job. Now you can't tell anything on me.
Yeah, now I got to be good. I worked second shift with Catfish Ledford.
Oh boy!
Oh, what a name!
So it was real interesting to do that, and you was talking about contraband, and we would search people so they could go into visitation. And John had told, or Catfish had told this big old guy that he let his wife bring him a thing of baby powder. Well, the lady left and came back with it. And knowing how to take care of kids, I knew how to flip the top off of it. And I started to take the top off, and Catfish says, "Don't open that in here," and used a few choice words. And I went ahead and opened it, and there was a pot wrapped up in a aluminum foil. And
it was dry.
It was. And they had that all worked out. But, he didn't want me opening that in the office. And they'd bring these people in. I always thought it was strange that they'd bring these men in, and they'd be so drunk they couldn't stand up, and they'd just be cursing and fighting everybody. And Catfish would stick his head around the corner, and he'll say, "You'll have to book this one." And I would go, and all of a sudden they'd stand up a little straighter, and it was yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am. And they would let me fingerprint them and everything. Those guys would just die because they'd been fighting them, and they had these old.
I used to go places with Marilyn, and these people would sincerely come up to her and thank her for being nice to them while they were in jail. And I'm thinking, I can't believe this person's standing here saying this.
Marilyn might not know this, but she was probably one of the first 10 female corrections officers in Bradley County, probably.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe the first 5. But
we had Marilyn and Frankie Lockhart and Nina George and
Charlotte,
Cheryl Holloway and Ruth Freeman.
Yeah.
Marilyn said Charlotte somebody.
These were all ladies that we hired during the transition over to the New Justice Center.
You realize
in 82.
that females weren't arrested prior to about 1980. A female seldom was ever arrested, and studies show because police officers are paternalistic and see women as their daughter and don't want to take them to jail. And of course, that all has changed now. And there's a lot of women in jail now that it didn't use, because you have women who are actually working in law enforcement.
It's equal opportunities now, too.
Yeah. We've got female patrol persons, and they're actually arresting females. So.
I always remember Ruthie. She was a dispatcher. We worked at the old jail probably less than a month before we
moved
into Johnson Boulevard. But Ruthie had dispatched there before then, and she said one night there was not an officer in the jail, and she could hear them sawing through the bars upstairs, and she called Andy Lockhart and said, Andy, somebody's sawing their way out. And he said, I'll be there.
Lock yourself in.
And so just as they went through the bars, well, Andy was standing down on the ground, and when they hit the ground, he grabbed them by the scuff of their neck and drug them back in.
Yeah.
And she would tell that in just her. But I worked third shift with Rick Smith and them, and if anybody was sick or on vacation or anything, sometimes there was only two of us there, and one had to run the control room. Yeah. And so one of us would be in the control room, and the other one would check their part of the jail. We'd swap out, and that one would check. Somebody come in to get booked. It was just whoever could do it. And I said, now, you think about it, and it scares you to death. Think you was there with 200 inmates.
That's right. Yeah.
And two people, and one of them locked up in a little room.
That's right, yeah.
But I really enjoyed it, guys. And, John, I won't tell anything I know on it.
Thank you.
That's about 3 times you said that.
Yeah.
Or any of the things that T's told me about riding around in the patrol car with Ron.
I hit T in the head one night. Didn't mean to, but I did. Pretty good too.
You know, Marilyn was a good corrections person.
Yeah.
She's very professional. You did a good job, Marilyn. You got a lot to be proud of.
Yeah, there's a lot of good memories with that.
Yeah.
And T was with Bob Johnson one night, and they had a wreck, and T'll still say, every once in a while, he'll say, my head hurts where I hit my head on the dash of the car.
I hit him in the head with my nightstick.
Yeah, his head had a hard time and all this.
And he didn't realize he'd hit because we were in the middle of a fight with this guy, and then this blood started running down the side of his face where I had split his head there, and T doesn't handle blood well. Just say it like this.
Well, Marilyn, didn't your car run into the sergeant's car in the parking lot one night?
Honey.
By itself, she wasn't in it.
I was in the old van, and I was running late, and I put it in gear, park, and jumped out and took off in the building. And about the time I got down to the Sally Port, I heard kaboom. My van had rolled across the parking lot, and if it hadn't been for Bob Johnson's truck sitting there, it would have went off the embankment down into Johnson Boulevard. And I think him and T finally swapped out some power tool for the damage that I did to his. But, well, we're really enjoying it, guys, and it's good to hear you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I left the old ambulance service. We had to get our gas back there. Remember, we went there for a long time after so I just got gas and come out, and they said there's a wreck with injuries on Free Will Road. What's the nearest unit? Because we didn't know where everybody else. Nobody. Right. I said, well, I'm leaving the pumps. Mm-hmm. I said, going that way. So it's one of those, you run 33 traffic. So I've got my siren going. I've seen the ambulances out ahead of me. I'm going down 25th Street, get to Peerless Road. Traffic light's green. I go through the traffic light. A guy runs the traffic light, runs the red light, hits me, and spins me around about 5 times.
Wow.
And Terry Hunt and I was in the car. And we just spun around in Peerless. So we didn't hit anything else, but he pretty much tore the front end of the car off. And as I look up, going by, the ambulance is already coming back. It was a fake call. Or false call. And some fish had died. There's a guy wrecked his boat, and the fish had died, and so we didn't need an ambulance. So they come running up there to me and everything like that. I said, are you all right? I said, yeah, well, I'm fine. And I look, and the guy who had hit me is backing up Peerless Road trying to get away.
Oh, no.
So,
by Ace Hardware kind
of
that way,
I'm on foot chasing him.
Yeah.
He wasn't going real fast. Okay. I catch the guy and grab him and get him out of the car. I said, where are you going? He says, to jail. And I said, you're darn right you're going to jail. And I says, what do you mean? He says, oh, I'm a trustee. I'm coming back. No, work release. I'm on work release.
Oh, no.
So he tried to leave the scene after hitting me.
Yeah.
He'd been drinking. And so
of course.
I think he got sent on to Brushy.
I bet he did.
After that.
Yeah. Speaking of car wrecks and going
but
and turning
Terry
around
had been knocked down into the floorboard, and he's trying to call for help, and the ambulance guys are trying to drag him out of the car, and it was crazy. Go ahead.
When's the Dirt Track documentary going to be out?
Hey, well, it's coming
and
up.
Where?
We have a date.
Right after this call. Hey, good morning. Live on Old Town Cleveland.
Good morning, Old Town Cleveland. How are y'all today?
I bet you got some maters.
I've got some tomatoes out here in Georgetown, right across from the Kangaroo past Green Acres.
All right.
Biscuits to go along with these maters.
Buttermilk biscuits and a mater, yes, sir. What else you got?
Man, we've got red delicious apples, golden delicious apples, cucumbers, sweet potatoes, bell peppers, squash, zucchini, oranges. Come on down and check it out.
We'll do that.
We've got the red, white, and blue American flags a flying. We've got big old Coke signs, and we've got tomatoes right across from us.
Man, American flag and maters, I'm headed that way.
Yeah. Thank you, buddy.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right. Before we get to tell about Dirt Track, I want you two guys to tell me what you're doing right now.
Oh.
Wait, the call come in here. I'm
Hang
sorry.
on.
But I want you to tell me what you're doing now because you guys are well known in the community and you've changed careers. So we want you to tell about it. Hey, good morning. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Yeah, this is T-Band.
Hey,
Hey,
T.
T-Band.
Hey, there's T.
Here comes the rebuttal.
Do what?
I said, go ahead.
Yeah, I got a fish truck the 21st.
Well, I hope you have good weather for it.
Yeah.
Okay, so if anybody wants to order fish for their ponds, tell them the number to call.
478-2405.
How'd your truck do the last time?
Done pretty good.
Well, good for you. Okay, fish truck. He has the fish down at the Farmers Co-op. If
Yes.
you don't call an order, you can still go down there, and he'll fill you up.
Yeah, I've just been listening to all of them up there at John. And,
It's a wonder we all survived, right?
yeah, I worked up there as a reserve officer for 10 years, and I was with Lamar all the way through and to the end.
There you
Do you remember me hitting you in the head?
Yeah, that's them boys from over at Botman Home.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had my billy stick holding up there down, and you grabbed a hold of the billy stick, and it slipped out of my other hand.
Slipped out.
Yeah, I got him pretty good.
Yeah.
I remember when that fella took his gun out up there at Charleston, and they called us in, and then you run down the interstate.
Oh, yeah. I done.
He had just took his gun out to get his change out. He had one of them little bitty pocket guns.
He brings it out to find his change, and they call in on him. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we were both nervous then.
All right, T. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Real quick here. What are you doing now? You no longer own the Rebel. Right. You sold the Rebel, but you still own the building and everything.
Sure.
So, but the Rebel restaurant now is run by who?
David Green, young man named David Green. I invite everybody to go to the Rebel. The Rebel's alive and well. But I'm no longer there. I'm owner and operator of Healthy Homes Heating and Air.
Okay.
So I'm doing HVAC work, residential. I can repair your heat pump or your gas furnace or your electric furnace. Give me a call, 715-3395.
All right. And John, what do you do
I
now?
enjoyed one of their hot dogs and chili last night.
Good.
Matter of
Appreciate
fact.
that. Yes.
Still in private investigation business. Still doing that, going well, and writing and recording.
Now, tell us how to get hold of you. If someone needs a sneaky detective, who do they call?
478-5250.
All right. Yeah.
I've got 4 good investigators on the staff. We'll take care of it for you.
John, we could do a whole
Telling
story
investigation stories would be another whole show someday.
Well, that would.
Well, and we haven't mentioned a lot, and we got the big fishing luring story coming up here just right in a second. But Andy Lockhart has passed on now, and Andy's one of those guys you loved or hate, and I probably all of us have loved him some and hated him some, but he was a good friend, and he arrested a lot of people. He knew more crooks than anybody in town and could solve more crimes. But there are more stories about Lockhart. There would be a 2-hour show, the Andy Lockhart
My
story.
favorite Lockhart story is that they sent him out on 64 Highway to the tent revival because somebody had reported that they could hear the snakes rattling at the tent revival.
Oh, really?
Lockhart goes sliding up there. He opens his door, and he steps out on the ground, and when he did, he could indeed hear the rattlers on the rattlesnakes rattling. So he got back in his car, called in and said, I'm out here at the tent revival, and everything's okay, and left.
I don't blame him there. Well, we want to play a song that John, he wrote the title track for our thing, and there's a music video. You can go to YouTube, just type in It's A Dirt Track Life, and it'll come up, and you can listen to that. And this is the song that is, if the things went to sleep here, it's on now. This is the song that will finish the documentary. And John, there is some really fun stuff at the end of the documentary. We're not going to tell anyone what it is. So say it's really going to crack you up. But this song is what you'll hear as the credits start playing, and this is called The Finish Line.
Been driving fast since I was 16. Life through my windshield is all I've ever seen. A fast car hugging the line, cheating death one more time. Hold on, pedal to the metal, racing to the finish line. Oh yeah. Hold on, pedal to the metal, racing to the finish line. Been told Granddaddy ran the shine. Yeah, ran some lawman in his time. A fast car hugging the line, cheating death one more time. Hold on, pedal to the metal, race to the finish line. Oh yeah. Hold on, pedal to the metal, race to the finish line. Let's go. Everything that I have seen has been through the review of that machine. A fast car hugging the line, cheating death one more time. Hold on, pedal to the metal, race to the finish line. Oh yeah. Hold on, pedal to the metal, race to the finish line. Let's go.
That was John Cook. He wrote and recorded and played all the instruments. Every instrument you hear on there is John Cook.
Wow, that's good talent.
And that's called The Finish Line.
Legend in my own mind.
Yeah.
Right. And that's on your new CD.
Yes, it is, which you can purchase at www.johncookmusic.net.
And if you like to hear
and Amazon,
if you like to hear It's a Dirt Track Live, it's on YouTube. It's a Dirt Track.
I just pulled it up. It's easy to find.
Yeah, that's an awesome video.
And
y'all did a great job on that video.
It's over 3,000 people have viewed it already, which is pretty amazing. And the documentary comes out April 17th.
17th.
It will premiere at the Museum Center at 5 Point here. If you're a member of the museum, it's free to come in. If you're a not a member, it'll be a $5 fee,
Sure.
I think, to get in.
Kids $3, I think. So it's
Yeah.
very reasonable,
that's
and
just-
that's to help the museum.
Yeah,
out. We're not
sure.
getting any of that
And
money.
and then that night we'll also have available the DVD of the documentary. It's an hour and 20 minutes. Well, I lied. It lacks 10 seconds, being an hour and 20 minutes. It's a long
We
documentary.
need truth in broadcasting here,
Yeah.
so I'm glad you.
Well, we don't have any of that on Whoop.
We don't have that on
no,
Whoop,
No, that's against the rules. And then there's also a book coming out that's going to have the pictures that we didn't make it in there.
Okay.
There's 300 photographs in the documentary.
Golly, buddy.
There's 20 people interviewed, and we still have. We could have part 2 and part 3. We have so much, and there's so much we didn't put in there, but we put the best stories of everybody in there. If you were an old Jack Cunningham friend, some great stories about Jack Cunningham in there. There are people like T.A. Hicks that worked at the Cleveland Speedway, Bobby Orr, who was an announcer,
Yes.
Terry Marr, Johnny Graham out of the Georgia area. You got Bobby Ritchie, Freddie Fryer, those
Dave
big
Wright
guys.
Jr.
Dave Wright.
What about the Doss Boys?
The Doss Boys
do
have brought
Paul.
us pictures of
Good.
Paul's wrecked car, and they didn't make the documentary.
they're in the- well,
most everybody in the
Paul-
documentary raced in the 50s,
Okay,
in
it's
the, in the
rather-
early
right.
60s.
There is one photo in the music video that is a Paul Doss.
Good. Okay.
Yeah, matter of fact, it's he's standing up in the car, and the car says Hillbilly on it. That's Paul
Yeah,
Doss.
right.
So, but and then after the premiere, coming in the 1st of May, and I don't have the exact date, the Museum Center is going to have an exhibit about dirt track
Actually,
racing.
it's the end of May through June.
Okay.
They're going to have an exhibit, and we're helping them gather stuff. We have Paul Doss's helmet. We have secured for them the flags from Lake Winnepesaukah Racetrack that closed in 1947.
Wow, what about that?
And there's a lot of pictures and trophies. We have a Jack Cunningham's trophy from the 1953 and a picture of him standing at his car holding the trophy, the
That is so
91.
So,
And so we're gathering a lot of nice stuff. So if you're listening to me and you have anything unusual in your family from the racing in this area, let me know or call the Museum Center on Tuesday. They'll be open on Tuesday.
And if you have racing pictures that you would like to get included in the book,
If I get them by next Saturday, they can be included.
It's going out. So, yeah, thanks for asking about that. And
I wanted to tell you, Ron, Larry Ledford's out in our lobby, and he brought in a warrant. I believe it was for his great-grandfather's arrest, where he got in a fight at the Fort Lightning.
Forky Lightning.
And 1896.
1896. All right.
And it's really neat to see that.
I wasn't
And-
working there then.
Yeah, were you working there then,
No.
John? Did you leave him down in the hole?
No.
And he got off on self-defense. But that's a family document there that he's going to let us scan and put on Facebook so everybody
Wow,
can
that is-
see it.
That's good to see that.
Be sure to come visit us on Facebook. We've got Old Town Cleveland Friends now. If you are a member of Old Town Cleveland, if you'll come over and join the Old Town Friends, we'll eventually do away with that first group because we couldn't get everybody on there.
Yeah,
Right.
you only can have 5,000 on there.
Exactly.
We're 5,000 now. We've started. It's actually the Friends of Old Town Cleveland. It's called.
I have like 4,900 friends, and I don't know what I'm going to do.
You start a group.
Yeah, maybe.
Hey, good morning. You live on Old Town Cleveland.
Hey, I just wanted to say hey to John and Chip and you and Debbie. This is John Brookshire. They know me as Sandra.
Yes.
Hey, Sandra, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely, Sandra. One of the old timers around there.
Kept us fed.
Good cooking, that's
Good
right.
cooking.
Oh, yeah, that's what I made my career doing, unfortunately.
Sandra come and visited us and done our show. She, some of her family and had been involved in the snake handling churches.
Oh, Sandra, I didn't know that.
And unbelievable knowledge she had about firsthand knowledge about the snake handling.
Wow,
thing.
I didn't. Yeah,
She still practices it.
we just lost a preacher back a couple of weeks ago. I guess it was in the news.
Yes, we
yeah.
saw that. It's
Yeah, it's
very
unfortunate.
unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Jeremy Coots. So.
Yeah, it sure was.
Yeah. Well, I know you're about to go off.
All righty. Well, thank you, dear. Bye-bye.
See you later. Bye.
Next week's show, folks, be sure to tune in because we're going to have the lady that runs the Lost Sea here.
Oh,
and we saw her do a presentation last Sunday up the McMinn County Historical Society, and she knows all the history about the speakeasies that were in there,
right.
and the saltpeter that was taken out of there, the prehistoric bones that were found, and how somebody discovered the lake. And you guys are going to really enjoy it. Her name's Lisa Marie Presley, by the way.
Oh, man. What about that?
McClung, now that she's married.
Before we go off the air and everything, down at the old jail, the one on 2nd Street, do you remember on Sunday nights them boiling those red hot dogs and the bologna and cheese sandwiches you had back there?
Yeah.
Oh, my man, that's best hot dogs and bologna you can get.
Now, they had that red dye in it.
No doubt.
That's what made them good.
Yeah. And you go back there and you get a piece of loaf bread, as we call her, white
If
bread.
you look real hard, you can find some of those wieners out there. I found some a few months ago and brought them in. My wife about died. She said, "What is that?" And I said, "Best hot dogs you'll ever boil." Of course, she doesn't believe in boiling hot dogs either. But if the water turns red, it's a good hot dog.
Well, and of course, in the sheriff's department, you have to remember the two biggest jokes they played on the new guys was there was a man with a gun at the corner of 8th and McCoy Street.
Oh, yes, that was
which
good
is the
one.
Confederate monument.
Right.
And they would put the snake out by the gas pumps.
Oh, I stepped on that snake.
Or if somebody went to sleep, Eddie Scoggins once told me down at one of the railroad crossings that stopped the train engine before going over the crossing, so if they were unloading, and the train engine have its light on. So if you got a deputy or a city policeman went to sleep on you, you pull on top of the tracks, and and the engine's on the side that the guy's asleep, and then you start screaming and hollering, the car's broke down, get out of the car, and just scare them to death. That was a fun joke to play.
Before we moved out of when we were actually moving out of the old county jail on 2nd Street, did you ever have the opportunity to meet Bear?
No, I haven't never met Bear.
Oh, man. Bear was
I know what happened to Bear.
Bear was a rat that
big rat.
ate more than its share over the years of marijuana out of the evidence.
Yeah.
And
had long hair.
Really?
And little sunglasses.
Bear did have long hair. Bear wound up being a huge rat. Most mellow rat you've ever seen. Bear would just stand out in the hall, kind of wobble from side to side and look at you. Bear wouldn't run.
Yeah.
Bear just kind of lumbered along, had
He's
the munchies
enjoying
all the
life.
time.
Yeah, had the munchies.
Big rat. I remember I believe Steve Lawson, standing out there in the hall one day, facing him down and trying to shoo him off. And Bear just stare you down. Bear just come out of the evidence room. He was pretty happy. What happened to Bear?
Well, Bear, they tore down as you guys moved out over there. They tore down the little shack out there, which was the detective office.
That's right, I remember it. Yeah.
Shack.
And the evidence locker was the closet with a padlock on it.
That's
and
it.
Bear was in there all the time. And
Yeah.
well, you tore down the shack. He went somewhere. Well, remember my cable office was right next door to the jail.
That's where Bear went.
Bear went to my office.
Yeah, Bear moved.
Hey, Ron.
Went from eating marijuana to donuts.
Good morning, live on Old Town Cleveland.
Yeah, I was just going to call and say that when I was a kid, Sam Cannon was the sheriff, and he used to give us his deputy badges, junior deputy badges.
That's right.
And little old ID cards or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And he used to put these March of Dimes, used to put dimes all up and down the sidewalk there, right up, I think it was Old Coy Street and stuff, but I just remember them.
Ron still has his badge.
I have my certificate, but not my badge.
I have my badge in a case sitting on top of my television.
How much would you sell me that badge
I would
for?
not sell you my badge.
Okay.
That's my Sam Cannon badge.
Yeah. I got a chance to talk about that program to Sam before he passed away, and Skeet Reimer actually financed that program for Magic
metal,
Chef.
They were metal badges. Now
were,
they're little
yes.
plastic things.
They're stickers now.
Yeah.
They came to George R. Stewart School and made me a junior deputy sheriff, and that certificate hung in my office the whole time I was at the sheriff's office.
Yeah, thanks for reminding us of that, and he was a fine sheriff.
I thought, we thought we'd be teased, being a little deputy,
Yeah. Citizens arrest. Citizens arrest.
Tried to make sheriff, and it just didn't work out for me.
Tried that.
Yeah, I tried that.
Got the T-shirt, didn't you?
I got the T-shirt, yes. This time 4 years ago, actually.
All right, folks, we've got...
Seen any crime or anything, we just we're supposed to report it and all that stuff. But I was going to ask, too, about this workhouse. Wasn't there one up there behind Cook's Food Store?
Yes.
Yeah, sure was. Yeah.
Yes, it's a little bit south of there, I guess.
They used to wear them striped clothes back in when they worked on the road and stuff. I remember them coming over. I used to live on Buckhannon Road over there, and they'd have them work on the road, and they wore them striped uniforms in.
That's right.
The practice for that now, people ask for that all the time, but it's just cost prohibitive. You have to have so many guards per inmate, and really, how many people want a rapist out cleaning out their ditch in front of their house?
And I think the prisoner almost has to volunteer to do it.
Well, that's
he?
true. You can't make them. Now, people always say, "Why don't you make them?" Well, what can we do to them to make them?
I'm gonna
cut
put
their
you in
fingers
jail.
off. What do you do? Yeah.
Well, I think the old workhouse, if you would go out and work, you'd get 2 days
Yes,
credit.
2 for 1.
2
yes.
for 1. So
Yeah.
if you were in for 20 days, you could get out in 10.
It could work again, and we do have work release.
Yes.
And the Pike Road Department, or the road department, picks up prisoners every day, and they go out and clean the road. But it's not though chain gang; they're considered not at risk inmates, as you know. So yeah, there is a program out there.
This guy named Winston Prince was in there at that time, and he used to ask us kids for cigarettes. I don't know how they allowed them to talk to us, but they just come up, talk to us, and everything else. But yeah, that was the good old days. Well, I'll let you go.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Okay.
Well, guys, that 2 hours went fast, and we still ain't, we got to tell the fishing lure story real quick.
Yeah,
John, go ahead.
Got to tell it.
Wait a minute. Let's the G-rated one.
Yeah. We will.
Chip, you got to run?
Yeah, sorry, I got people waiting on me.
Okay. Thanks for being here.
Yeah,
And,
thanks for inviting me.
Your Heavenly Homes. Healthy Homes.
Healthy Homes. I like that name, Heavenly
Heavenly
Homes. HVAC. What an ideal.
I can't see that far across
It
the
has,
head.
it has a divine touch to it.
If your house is hot as hell, call Chip.
I love it. What an ideal. I even got
Tell
a
us the
slogan.
telephone number.
715-3395.
And if you need any kind of
If you have an
HVAC
airflow
work,
problem, got high light bills, now's the time to get your unit checked because it's going to be a hot summer.
All right.
And when it gets 100 degrees, you'll be wanting me. You'll be
That's
wanting me there
right.
real bad.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Chip.
Bye-bye.
Go ahead,
Thank
John.
You. Hey, Chip, don't forget your jacket.
Go ahead, John.
Well, Alan Walsh come pulling into the parking lot at the Justice Center on Johnson Boulevard, and they called me out, said they were requesting my presence in the parking lot, had an emergency. I come out, and Andy Lockhart is sitting in Alan's vehicle. Well, he got out right now and was sitting on the tailgate. He's got a fishing lure stuck into his scalp and about 3 feet of fishing line hanging off the back of his head. And, long story short, they had gone fishing together, and Andy was in the back of the boat, and Alan Walsh gave it a good whip of the pole there to cast out and caught the lure in Andy's scalp, gave it a good jerk, and just dug it in. And Andy was out there. He was cussing up a storm. And I said, "What do you want me to do? You need to go to the hospital." He said, "I'm not going to the hospital. I'm a detective. I can't let him see me this way." And handed me a pocket knife, wanted me to cut it out. I refused at first, but he was adamant. I attempted to cut that thing out for probably 15 minutes. And
Andy
Andy was screaming.
using
Andy was cursing. He was using some very expletive language, and he was bleeding. I mean, the deeper I would cut, the more blood. It was hideous looking by the time I finished. And the fishing lure was still hung in the back of his scalp when he finally decided to head off to the ER. So that was he and Alan Walsh's big fishing expedition that day.
Well, if you could hear all the things that Andy said at certain times.
What Andy said makes the story. It cannot be relayed on a family program.
Well, John, thank you so much. And if you need a private detective, 478-5250, right?
Do a lot of background screening and fingerprinting. Matter of fact, I do some fingerprinting today. But
if you need
relationship screening is what it's called. What everybody meets online and on Facebook now, so they need to find out if people are who they say they are and if they've been in any trouble. We do that. We take care of it.
So you do workman comp issues. You do all other type.
You name it. If it's investigative.
And you'll walk their dog for $60 an hour.
$60 an hour in mileage.
I've gotten a little message here that I want to just mention to everybody. this sweet little girl named Katie Barkley. During the ice storms, her mom had a wreck, and she's pretty severely injured. That family is needing to rent a 3-bedroom house in Lower Bradley County or Ottawa. And if anybody has anything, they can reach me on Facebook. But they're really struggling right now, and they're going to bring her home from the hospital, and they're needing a good, clean place for her to live. So if anybody knows of anything, they can let me know.
Well, thank you, everybody. And as always, we remind everybody, get those pictures from out under the bed, in the closets, and the drawers, and get someone, your grandmother, your grandfather, your mother, your dad, and write the names on the back of those pictures, because once they're gone, you may not know who they are. And if you don't save history, if you don't write it down, it's going to be gone. We'll always know about Pearl Harbor, but Deb?
Well, you know about Ain't Pearl.
That's true. So it's up to you to save that history. Instead of Old Town Cleveland on our way out tonight, we're going to play, or this afternoon, we're going to play It's a Dirt Track Life, and we'll see you next week here talking about the Lost Sea. Thank you, John Cook. We'll see you next week.
Time to pack it up and haul it home. Didn't do that well tonight. A few more scratches and some aching in these bones. That's all right. This week I need to work some overtime. Take the wife out Friday night. A couple new tires before Birmingham. That would be alright. You can say I've been going in circles. Not many right turns in my life. Never catching up to the dust I left behind. But that's alright. That's alright. It's a dirt track life. I smelled like gas since I was 17. Under the hood most every night. I spend more money than I could ever win, but that's alright. Won first place back in '63. It was the best day of my life. But one more best day before I kiss the ground would be alright. Yeah, it'd be alright. You can say I've been going in circles. Not many right turns in my life. Never catching up to the dust I left behind. But that's alright. That's alright. It's a dirt track life. Da 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 da. La da 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 da. La 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 da da.
You are listening to WOOP-LP, Cleveland, Tennessee. WOOP FM is a broadcasting service of the Traditional Music Resource Center, and we play America's original music.
money overnight. Check into cash. Your time is tight. .com. Bank account's too low. Check into cash. So where do you go? .com. Do it online.